There we go. So for anybody who's participating virtually, if you can just raise your hands to indicate that you wish to speak, we'll call on you when the timing is appropriate during public comment period. You also are free to send me a chat using the chat function on Zoom, and I'll try to respond to you as best I can. And if you just make sure to please state your name for the record before you speak. Looks like everybody who's logged in right now is properly identified, but if it's not, then I'll also shoot you a message to make sure that we have your name in there for the record. And then finally, if for some reason we get interrupted in a way that doesn't allow us to continue on with our business, we'll end the meeting, regroup, send out a new link for everybody to join, and carry on from there. And with that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. So before we go to the first agenda item, I do want to announce that our distinguished council president is unable to be here tonight because, as you all know, he has become a
Firefighter.
He is an EMT with the Glen Echo Fire Department, and he has some mandatory training tonight that he has to perform before he can do his duty, so he couldn't be here. But I would like to welcome our newest staff member, and I will turn it over to the town manager to introduce him.
Yeah, welcome EJ Hardwick. EJ is joining us from Missouri by way of Oklahoma, I guess. So new to the area, but a master's in public administration graduate. Was most recently with the town of Indian Point in Missouri, and they had a complete staff overhaul, and so EJ was part of the process over there, helping clean up and put in procedures, new policies over there to get them on track. Also been involved in his hometown on several volunteer committees, was part of a recycling initiative. It's going to start next week, so we're really excited to have him join the team. So welcome, EJ. I think one of your first tasks is going to be to write an introduction article for our town journal, so you can get a chance to introduce yourself to the town. But we're excited to have you, and I'm sure you'll be a great addition to our team. So
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome. Okay, thank you. Our first agenda item is the election of the council president. Would anyone like to make a motion? Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Councilman.
I would like to nominate our current president, Steve Circo. My honor to do that. Hope that we'll all agree and want to, bring him back as our president for the next 2 years. 2 years, right? Year.
1 year.
It's 1 year, sorry, 1 year appointment.
Is yours?
Do you want me to carry on?
Whatever you want. It's
I
your-
think
your-
we all know
well,
Steve.
your-
I think he's, a person with incredible integrity. And I've just learned so much from him the past 2 years, and I look forward to learning more. I second.
Okay, is there discussion? Hearing none.
Has
Oh.
Steve said that he is willing to serve as president in the future, because he's not here to say that.
He has, I'm the nominator.
Well,
Talk to him.
I asked him if I could nominate him, and he said that's fine, so I assume that. I didn't think to ask, sorry, would you want to do
All
it?
right. That's good to know, because the nominating people in absentia is not usually the best thing to do. Okay, all right.
I would agree with that.
But you have talked to him, so is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, thank you. So our next item is our public comment period. For any resident or guest that has a question or comment, now is your opportunity. And there's no one in the town hall. Is there anyone online?
no
Thank you.
no public. I think there probably will be for specific agenda items, but not for this
Okay, all right, thank you. The next item is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second,
Okay, is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is consideration of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Councilor, is it, okay, you got through this, right?
Yep.
Okay, is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those votes, thank you. Our next item is public hearing motion to consider approval of a 4-month extension to the existing building permit for an addition to the front of the existing home located on the property at 5502 Greystone Street as requested by Jill and Seth Cohen. Mr. Town Manager.
Relatively straightforward. I think we have our building administrator, Doug Lohmeyer, on the line. So Doug, I'll hand it over to you to present the application for the council.
Good evening. Their permit was, the permit will be expiring in mid-July. And according to the contract, they still have to install lighting fixtures, some plumbing fixtures, interior finishes, and some exterior hardscape. So they've asked for an extension until October 1st of 2023. They anticipate being done by the end of September. And I recommend the council approve that extension.
Okay, thank you. And I think the issue for the applicants.
The applicant's not here. Doug, if I may, the only thing I would add really quickly is that they have been approved for a county permit extension through September 22nd, I think. So the county has granted them an extension for this work. And it is mostly interior work that's left to do, but we want to make sure it's all done before we sign on the permit ourselves.
Does that conclude?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Barr, do you have any questions?
No questions, no.
Thank you, Councilor Heller.
no questions. Thank you.
Councilor Kumar.
No questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Rovak.
No questions.
Mr. Town Manager, has any resident or guest wish?
No, there are no comments.
Okay. So the comment period is closed. Council, you prepared to make a motion?
I can make a motion. Motion to approve 4-month extension to the existing building permit for an addition to the front of the existing home located at 5502 Greystone Street as requested by Jill.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Second.
Rovak, okay. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, thank you. The next item is the building administrator's report. Sir.
At 4719 Cumberland, they have applied for a permit to remove an existing deck and replace that deck with a deck in the same location, the same size. That town permit was issued on May 15th. At 4900 Cumberland Avenue, the council last month extended their permit until August 15th of this year, and work is proceeding finally. At 4816 Essex, property owner has submitted a building permit application to enlarge the building at the rear of the house. That permit was issued on May 6th. And at 5510 Greystone, their permit will be expiring in June 18th, but they anticipate being done. So no permit extension will be required. 5506 Trent, that work has been completed. The county has closed their building permit, and the town is in the process of closing our building permit. And at 5522 Uppingham, their permit will be expiring soon, and we've contacted them to see if they need an extension. We haven't heard back yet. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Council Member Barr, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Thank you, Councilor Heller.
No questions.
Councilor Kumar.
No questions.
Thank you, Councilor Rovak.
No questions.
Okay, the next item, public hearing motion to consider approval of a 100% native planting strategy and removal of invasive species and approval of up to $7,000 in funds for the procurement of plants as presented by Groundsmith Collective LLC for the town of Somerset entrance at River Road and Greystone Street. Mr. Town Manager.
Before I turn it over to Kelly O'Clesson, who's the founder, and Kelly, I'll need you to fill in the blank if I have it right for your title, but who is our contracted planting consultant. Kelly was able to save us a little bit of money as well, so the total for the package is actually $6,388 as opposed to the full 7,000. But otherwise, Kelly, I'll turn it over to you if you want to present your plans. We did go over it in brief at our last work session, but I'm sure hearing from yourself, an expert, would be welcome.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Matt. My name is Kelly O'Clesson. I am your landscape architect garden consultant to shift the planting palette from a lot of the public spaces to a native planting palette. And I will share my screen. I believe, as Matt said, you discussed this at your last gathering. So essentially, can everybody see this actually? Is this clear?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, great. All right, let me just zoom out a little bit. Okay, so in this phase of the work we're completing for the town, we are focusing on just one entry, which is off of Greystone and River Road. So we have a map here that's just showing the town boundary, and it is identifying specifically that entrance. We have an image here that is just identifying our strategy, which is to eliminate tier 1 and tier 2 invasive plants. And that is basically a definition set by the Maryland Department of Agriculture. So Nandina domestica and daylilies were on that list. And so our recommendations are to remove them. And we also decided that in general, a complete garden redesign was warranted. So new design, all native plantings. And so here are the designs that were proposed. So this is the left side if you're looking on Greystone from River Road. And I'll zoom in here. So we've got the planting plan here. Oh, there you go. And then we have the planting schedule, which is a fancy term for the plant list. And just like Matt said, we were actually able to get a lot of these plants in plug form, so they're smaller and they establish faster. So that was really lucky for the spring planting. So here's the plant schedule for that left side. And then the right side is essentially a mirror of that left side. Not exactly, but they're complementary to one another. And the strategy here is to bring out the plantings a little bit further, so it just has more visual appeal, and the scale of the garden matches the scale of the brick piers and wall. I know that we discussed, Mayor and Matt and I took a walk, and we were asked to also look at some of the signage at these entries. And one of our recommendations, which you'll see in the package, is that the size of the pin letters on the brick wall are just a little undersized. So our recommendation is to talk to a sign fabricator and potentially bump up the size of those pin letters. That's the easiest, most cost-effective approach for the sign renovation. But if you wanted to do something more grandiose, we'd be happy to look at that. But that was our simple recommendation design wise. I think that the brick entry is, it's of the time, it's effective. I think that you just need some larger lettering. And then we've got more details on the plantings themselves. So our firm is looking at all of the entries to the town and the common public spaces that you'll be investing resources and beautification. And so we're coming up with a palette for the town, a plant palette that is used in repetition to make folks familiar with the plantings. They indicate the feel of the town, the look of the town, and it depends on whether you're full sun or shade, obviously. But being on Greystone, you're able to get away with the Greystone and River Road, get away with a lot of full sun perennials. So the planting palette looks like this. We've got all season covered, and these little color indicators at the bottom just show you what colors are happening during different months of the year. So we've got whites and purples and dark purple foliage. We have yellow flowers like our black-eyed Susans. We have spotted bee balm. It attracts all kinds of pollinators, especially bees. Pink evening primrose, coreopsis, early blooming foam flower, some sedges, and some purple-leafed hairy alum root. So those are your perennials. And then the shrubs are, again, following the palette that we've already been working on with you all for the last few years. So our native inkberry, Fothergilla, which has a blue leaf. It's very attractive and really striking in the landscape. You've got Annabelle hydrangea and Dart's Gold 9-bark, which is like a chartreuse yellow. And a couple of what we call anchoring evergreens, some of the emerald green arborvitae, some creeping juniper, and sweet bay magnolia. And Matt, would you like me to show the breakdown of cost, or is there anything else you'd like me to discuss? Maybe the strategy for the other entries, or?
I don't think it's necessary to go into detail about the costs. Maybe just open it up for the council to ask questions.
Yeah, the only other, Kelly, thank you very much for that beautiful presentation. Could you also comment a little bit before the council asks questions about the some of the history of the entrance and also some of the other options beyond plants? Because as I think you know, and I think Matt probably knows, is that there has been talk, that's a classic mid-century entrance, right? And I know that some years ago, former council member Leslie Simmons, when she was researching her book, there was some talk about the lighting there that had been, the classic lighting was removed at some point. And there had been some talk, this is, like 15 years ago, about bringing that back. So I don't know if you wanted to comment on that. And then I think you had I think a minute ago, you did mention that the lettering there, that is classic mid-century, right? So before I take questions, can you just comment a little bit on that?
Absolutely. So our firm is looking at the entrances from both a planting strategy, but also hardscaping and using or more architectural features to indicate entrances. So as you rightly mentioned, right now this is just a planting plan, but we are going to be making recommendations on further updates that could be completed by the town to just further support having a beautiful entry marker and something that's legible, something that fits again with the period of all the materials. So in this phase, we're just looking at planting, but we're contracted to look at every entry and make recommendations. So we will absolutely do so. And I think it'll be up to the town and what, I think what we'll do is almost a small, medium, large approach for each of the entries. And each of those entry recommendations will have planting components and those architectural features.
Okay,
So
so tonight, and I think you made this clear, or Matt made this clear at the work session, that this is just planting, but you're still thinking about you might have other recommendations for this entrance. So thank you so much. Councilmember Barr, do you have any questions?
Comments and questions. First of all, thank you very much, Kelly. That was very detailed, and I'm very glad to see you're planting it with native plants. And I agree that the Town of Somerset sign there is almost invisible if you're driving past and even if you're walking past. So enlarging the letters there makes a lot of sense. I also appreciated that you're choosing plants that flower at different times of year. I didn't hear of any plants that were flowering in late summer or fall. I just wondered, did I miss that, or do you have any ones that are late bloomers like that?
Yes, yes. Okay, let's see. So here's our early spring. The Black-Eyed Susan, they range from July to September. We've got the Monarda punctata, which is June, July. The Coreopsis is into August. Let's see. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think we can look into adding maybe a little bit of goldenrod or something like that, but it is
Yeah,
kind of
maybe,
tricky.
yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky with deer, and aster is another really, really good one. I think we've got the early blooming aster here, which is the snow flurry aster. But yeah, in terms of blooms, we could add another color in there. But the good thing is that you've got foliage color that's going to have color. You've got also, yeah, you've got the foliage of the blue here. You've got to have some of the gold here. So you have good coverage there. But that's a really good point. If we wanted to add anything for like that October, maybe October or November.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great suggestion.
Thank you. Councilmember Heller, do you have any questions?
Yes, Kelly, it looks great. I mean, it's a beautiful array of colors and plants. Thank you. But my one question is this: you had mentioned that you were going to move the planting out, like closer, towards the street. I don't know if this is of concern. Just a quick thought. Will people walk along the grass and get in the way of it? Will they trample on the flowers? I don't know if they're doing that now. It's hard for me to say, but you know how people cut the corner, well, they don't necessarily walk to the end and then they walk in. Will they walk on the grass? Will they hurt the plants? Is that a concern? If it's not a concern, then fine. Just a question.
That's a really good question. We did think about that and try to design for that. And the way that we try to design for that is you actually have a curb right here as part of the sidewalk infrastructure. So hopefully that guides people away from walking through the garden. But if somebody does want to cut through, they could cut through here if they'd like. And we kind of made that, we made that a comfortable cut through. I don't know if anybody will. I doubt it because the sidewalks are so nice. But I don't think that they will walk on the edges right here near that curb, because the curb is, you can kind of see it in this photograph here, but yeah. Right in here. And both sides have that curb. So we're hoping that folks won't, but if folks walking their dogs, they might come in there, but all these plants are very tolerant to urban spaces.
Great, thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Councilor Kumar, do you have any questions?
Kelly, thank you again for a great presentation and for your work. I wanted to clarify two things. Is this the palette, so to speak, for the rest of the entrances and public spaces, or how is this different from what might happen elsewhere? And I'm sorry,
That's a good question.
I'm jumping the gun, but just wondering how it fits in with the overall kind of signature of our town.
Sure, that's a great question. So, okay, so there's a garden that is parallel to the entry to the town hall. And we are actually borrowing a few plants from that garden. So we've got the snow flurry aster that's being used there. The lyre leaf sage is being used there. The penstemon blackbeard is being used there. You also have, I believe, the juniper. So there's about 4 plants that you already have near the town hall. And we've also used a few of these plants at the Wisconsin entrance. So we're starting to try to build repetition with the use of these plants. And so these entrances I just mentioned, the River Road and Greystone and Wisconsin, they do tend to have more sun. So depending on the location within the town, the palette will sort of shift. But yeah, we're intentionally using materials in repetition that also perform really well. And we're doing that to create, as you said, a signature for the town.
Great, and thank you for that, and it says spring 23, when will we do this, just to be clear? Is it too late in the year to do these plantings now? Are we gonna do this next spring?
It's a great question. Matt, did you want to field that one or?
Yeah, well, yeah, and feel free to also jump in, but I think what Kelly and I were talking about is we were looking at all of our entrances together, and part of the reason we focused on this entrance was to be able to get it done this spring and focus on it and to be able to give it a little bit more care and attention. It is tending later in the planting season, but that we might have, as long as we're able to give it a little bit more attention, a little bit more water, make sure that they're planting okay, that this one can survive, and then we move on to additional upgrades, as well as looking at the Little Falls entrance in particular for the fall.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, what do I know? But from my limited experience later, post end of May, it gets harder. And then you just need, you just have, things might just not survive. So if we don't need to rush, might as well do it at a time when, I mean, we can appropriate the money, but just to do it so that it survives. So you're not replanting, but you would know best, Kelly, on that front. But I just looking at the title and the level of effort and the fact that this would be one of the first we do, I just wouldn't want us to replant them.
Sure, I would say that my professional recommendation is always to try to do things in the fall if you can, but you can plant up until I'd say early June, mid-June. You will have a higher water requirement in June just because the plantings will be stressed, and so there'll have to be some dedication to paying attention to watering schedule. But if you do have flexibility with the planting and timing, then yeah, I would say maybe late September is ideal. Then you do get another extra 4 months of root establishment.
Okay, that's a very good point. So you can put that in the motion.
Yeah, we could do that.
Because there's no rush in any of this. And it's all up to you. So that's good. Did you have another question?
I do have
Go
a
for it.
question.
Go for it.
This is a minor one. There's arborvitae on the list. Where is the arborvitae going to be? Is that the backdrop by the wall?
Yeah, so they are actually a small arborvitae. They are
Small, okay.
Yeah, they're a dwarf. They're not, I think a lot of folks are familiar with green giant, which is a very tall, maybe 30 to 40 feet tall evergreen. So these are actually a native arborvitae, and they don't get more than I'd say about 8 feet tall. So they're just we're just using those to our fancy design language to anchor. We use that to things and create a little bit of like
Green backdrop to all the color.
Exactly. So yeah, these are smaller. These aren't the 40-foot ones.
And okay, last question. I appreciate Mayor's comment about the lighting, and I've heard folks mention the lighting at that entrance for what it's worth.
Mhm.
And so please put that in your equation as you make these changes. For example, we could keep the sign the same if it has some historic value, but you could light it better. That could go a long way, just to light it up on the bottom. Because at night, actually, that's the entrance I use the most. We are on that side of town.
Mhm.
And I have noticed that it's hard to read. I mean, I'm not looking to read the sign, right? But I've noticed occasionally that it's hard.
Is it lit?
There are 2 lamps, I think.
The sign itself isn't lit.
No, the lamps lit, fall onto the sign and you can see
Well,
it.
those are
but-
the kind of things that Kelly can look at.
Yeah, so-
Glad you brought that up.
I'm glad you're looking at that, and I appreciate, if I understood you correctly, you were saying different levels of signage by entrance. Did I hear you correctly? Like high, mid, low? So I appreciate that to signify, you know, like this is not the main entrance kind of thing. And so I appreciate if that's the underlying logic.
Well, it's also gonna be different levels of investment.
Different levels of investment. Yeah, I
Exactly.
appreciate
Because
that.
when we walked around the town, we actually have 6 entrances.
Yes,
So, but it's up to you, and as you all recall, I don't usually take initiatives, but this is something I've been interested in for years.
I think this is a good one.
Yeah.
And
You
I,
all agree.
and I appreciate the logic behind that. And so anyway, thank you for doing this and for these great suggestions and thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Yeah, we can take a look at the lighting. I know that there are the two lights that flank both sides, but I believe there's also uplighting. I don't know, at least we have photographs of uplighting on the ground. I don't know if they're functional, but we can look at that and make recommendations on if you want to invest in improved lighting fixtures or something like that.
Well, we can approve the 7K, so you have the flexibility to do that.
That's perfect.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rovak.
So then after the first year kind of thing, so these plants then will stay there and keep coming up year after year. Is there a lot of expense? To maintaining it from your end then for future?
Great question. So we actually were hired pre-pandemic into the pandemic to create a town operations and maintenance manual. And we are at about 90% completion. And it's in the works to have everything translated into Spanish. So we're hoping that that guide will be able to be handed off to you all by the end of this calendar year, and that it'll have all the information needed for continued maintenance. It'll have the most notorious weeds. And I think the most important piece is that y'all will know what should be planted there. And if you need to do additional infill, you'll have the agency to make choices to be able to do infill, or, we could always be on hand for some confidence building. But we fully plan on having that manual to you so that this will be a self-sustaining project.
Great.
And actually, Councilor Rovak, that's something that previous council has been asking for forever. So that we would have permanent guidelines.
Yeah.
So thanks for asking.
Because we have that right now for the front entrance on Dorset, right? Who maintains the front entrance on Dorset?
Our staff is responsible for, that was actually one of the notes that I wanted to talk about in my report later. But the idea, like Kelly said, is that especially once we have a plan for all of our entrances, that her firm is putting together a comprehensive maintenance plan for us. So our staff has it, that's part of the initiative to put it in Spanish, so no matter who we're working with, whether we're contracting it or it's our in-house staff, that we know what kind of the annual or semi-annual maintenance of it is, and if we have to do replanting or weeding and everything in between.
Okay, and then, so what is the timeline for the Dorset Little Falls entrance revamp?
We talked about trying to present something to you for the fall for that.
Because like, it sounds like, I mean, in the time of, trying to make it all kind of go together, if we can't really start planting out there until the fall anyways, because, the summer heat will just kill those plants. Maybe we can get it, use like the next month or so to try to get that plan. And then maybe do it at the same time so that we could maybe save a little money, or, if we're doing it all as like one.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an
Watch
option.
us.
Is that an option to do something like that, to have them kind of go together?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Off the top of my head, I think the least complicated entry is this entry where simple planting beds would do a world of difference. I think for the entrance off of Little Falls, it's so deep, the entrance and the ownership and property lines between Maryland National Capital Park and planning. I think we will need to actually present a few concept ideas for you all to chew on, to think about what level of investment do you want, because right there, there's no kind of architectural pillar or anything. So we're thinking about, like, obviously planting beds is the easiest low hanging fruit, but then when you start to integrate like those architectural features, it makes it feel more established. So I think for those other entries, we can throw out some concepts to you over the summer, and at the least a planting can happen. I think the most expense is if you add any architectural details. Same goes for the entry off of Dorset. We talked about whether an architectural improvement would be appropriate there, or something that could be very simple, like a 6x6 sign with a really elegant little flag that just says town hall this way. So that's the kind of thing we'll present. We'll say, here's A, B, and C for each of those entries. Get your approval on which ones to proceed with the planting component. And then you might have to discuss maybe some of those more detailed architectural features to do some more detailed design for that, because you'll have to, this masonry might be involved, and different craftspeople and whatnot.
Okay.
So that's a good question, because maybe Matt can address. I don't think that when the budget was done for this year, that there was any intention that all this would be done in this, because I don't think that this is sort of like the planning year, right, Matt? I don't think we didn't put in money to revamp every entrance, right?
We put in, I think, something around $12,000 next year for planting. So, yeah, yes. So
That doesn't include, so for example, as we all know, the entrance is, I'm sorry, Matt, the entrance at Little Falls Parkway is a complete disaster.
yeah,
Right, and so I think when we walked around together, and what she's talking about tonight is that she's gonna present different
Yeah,
concepts that will cost, there'll be different price tags, and you might, and I'm sure that it's not in this year's budget. But
yeah,
this could be for future budgets. This also might be part of like a 5-year plan
yeah,
to improve all the.
And this 7K is.
got it.
That's
Exactly,
what-
exactly.
But isn't there only money for plan? I mean, there isn't really any money for actual work done on a hard scale.
You're right, exactly. The intent wasn't to do.
yes.
So we have, this money right now is for this fiscal year, which ends end of this month. So
Oh,
if we approve it now, it comes out of this year.
okay.
But what's
And
in,
we could still come back in the fall.
but what is it?
Oh, because there's
next
more.
year?
And next year we have, I think about 12,000, but it's the same thing. We put in a little bit more knowing that the Little Falls entrance was bigger, but it may not be all.
But we can follow Shannon's plan. We can
Yes.
look at that entrance, you have contingency too.
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
You know,
Did you have any-
No, I think it sounds great.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Town Manager, has any resident or guest indicated they wish to speak?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Council, you're ready to make a motion.
I'm prepared to make a motion, but I have a clarification. Do I need to specify a planting time period? I don't think I need to in the motion. I'm not gonna do that. Okay, if everyone.
I think it's your option.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Okay, motion to approve 100% native plant planting strategy and removal of invasive species. And approval of up to $7,000 in funds for the procurement of plants as presented by Groundsmith Collective. For the town of Somerset entrance at River and Greystone.
Is
I'll
there a second?
second that motion.
Oh, okay, Laura. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, thank you very much.
Thank you, Callie.
Thank you all.
The next item, public hearing motion to consider approval of a contract with American Pool Enterprises LLC for the reconstruction of the town pool deck and other repairs to the town pool in an amount not to exceed $705,000 as recommended by the town manager.
And we are joined by Mr. Rob Smith from American Pool here to answer questions. It's been a project that's been a long time coming and in the works for a while, so I don't think I need to give much background. I think everybody kind of knows where we are for the most part, but I'll just hand it over to Rob if you want to say anything to start off with, and then the council may have some questions for you.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you. I guess, Matt, to piggyback on what you were saying, this is sort of a long time coming, mainly just due to the age of the pool, and everything is sort of hit the end of what the capital life would be. If you think about the pool deck itself, plumbing, things of that nature. I know, Matt, we've talked quite a bit about it, and you sort of are running into a snowball effect because a lot of what the pool itself is based on is that pool deck. As far as the coping stone and tile are a template for where the pool deck sits. Underneath the pool deck is the pool plumbing. What sits on top of the pool deck, i.e. dive stand, the slide that's there now. Once again, what's also under this pool deck is a lot of potable plumbing, which is for your water fountains, hose bibs, electrical for the post lights, the underwater lights. I mean, you can, I don't need to sort of go on anymore, but that's sort of where we sit. I think it's probably best on my side just to answer any inquiries, or for that matter, any general questions, to provide any more clarity that may be needed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Councilor Barr, do you have any questions?
Just get a feeling for, do you feel pressed by the time available for it in the off season, or are you comfortable with that time?
So yeah, it's a tricky thing because it's all weather dependent for us. And what I can tell you is really the number one important thing for us right now is to be able to get the deck off, remove the deck, and be able to do the interior plumbing before the weather changes.
Mm-hmm.
Once we have that done, then the deck can be poured once the weather breaks again, if you will. It was sort of figured out that way anyways, not to pour the deck until next spring, which would be April 24, which unless we have a catastrophic glacier freeze this winter, I think I'm okay. I'm comfortable with a time frame to make all of this happen.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Hella.
Robin's question was basically my question, so thank you, Robin. But one thing that you just said, Rob, that got me thinking, if you take the deck off and you don't pour it again until next spring, how do we protect what's there? We have to protect what's underneath.
Yeah, so the idea will be by the time the weather breaks, we have a gravel bed down, basically a tamped gravel bed, which is not uncommon if you think a lot of times about pools that are first being built and things of that nature. There is no deck for a while. The plumbing will not have, there will be no freeze damage that could happen or anything else of that nature, because the plumbing won't be full with water anyways. And really any measures that need to be taken to protect the pool shell, to protect sort of the underwash of the deck, etc., will be taken.
Great, thank you.
Is that?
Yes, I'm
Thank
done.
you, Councilor Kumar.
Rob, just on clarifying on the timing question, if you had sort of unfettered time, no weather impediments, what's the end-to-end comfortable time you need to do all of this work? Is it a 6-month end-to-end project, 10-month end-to-end project? What's the sort of, forget the weather, forget what time of the year, if you had great weather, continuous time, how long will this take comfortably for you to do?
Yeah, so you're about 5 to 6 months is really about what you said.
6
From
months, yeah. So there is a scenario in which it could bleed into the first month of the summer next year.
It could. What I can tell you, yes, it could. I'll leave it at that.
No,
Do I think it
that's-
will?
Yeah. No, I hear you. And but every construction project I've been involved with, I mean, I would multiply the time by 3, actually. It has always gone over. So.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But I
There is-
appreciate your desire to make it happen in time. A related question, some of the parts like the water fountain and those other pieces in the project, there are no delays in procuring those parts and there's no broader challenges in executing those elements that you're aware of. They are easily available, you're able to get hold of them. You know, I'm assuming they're specialized supply, pool supply, you know, companies and so on and so forth. Just wanted to clarify there was any sort of on the back of this potential hidden delays and just procurement of equipment that might slow this down.
Nothing that I know of. The recommendations I made in regards to the style, water fountains and, you know, even the, you know, the dive stand and the slides, they're not necessarily industry standard, but they are what you see sort of everywhere on the quasi higher end places, that they have a better aesthetic value to them, and they're also more durable, more rugged. You know, that was probably a long way to answer that. Yeah, they're readily available, take more time than normal to procure.
Okay, last question. Are you doing any other pool construction work at the same time?
No, this would be the next one in line. We just, what I was actually going to elaborate on a little bit is I had a very similar project this past year where it was literally the day the pool closed, we had pumps in the pool to drain it, and we started. And it was a smaller deck, so we were able to actually pour the deck in November, and the pool got plastered mid-April, and you know, it was fine, it was good. So no, the answer is I do not.
Great, thank you, Rob.
Councilor Rovak, do you have questions?
So we have all of the permits needed to get this all started. So, I mean. Just starting at a week or 2 weeks even earlier make sense?
Yes.
I mean, would that make sense for us to make sure that it's done on time, or does it not really matter, like a week or 2 weeks? Like, is it more weather related that we could have potential delays? Or when we're starting?
So the only permit we do not have right now is the permit for the replacement of the plumbing. And this is, it's quite a lengthy process just because of the drawings alone take some time, this and that. That's not a huge deal, okay? What I can tell you, the turnaround on that is probably 6 to 8 weeks. So if there was gonna be a time to do it, now would be the time. Sorry, I just got, yep, I got muted for a second. Sorry about that. So that would obviously be right now. That's sort of where the gas is hit to get those permits going. Now, to answer your question on that, this is 100% weather, right? 1 or 2 weeks will obviously help, but you know, if you look at, we get 2, 3, 4 weeks, not, you know, 4 weeks, but say you get 2 weeks with, you know, probably 4 or 5 days rain in there, then you do have a delay. It's not just because of the rain, it's after the rain for the dry out and things of that nature. Is 1 or 2 weeks going to buy time for you know, a timely finish? It sure, you know, obviously the more time we have, the better off it is. I know Matt and I discussed this quite a bit in regards to when, you know, when to close the pool for the season, when to open it for the next season. It's just a tough answer.
So, I mean, but basically the next step is once we approve this to go forward, then you guys need to do the design for the plumbing that then gets permitted.
Correct. One of the hurdles was the get the permitting for the deck, which we do have permit for that. So yeah, the next one is the permit for the replacement of the recirc plumbing.
Okay, so, you know, maybe we can be like fluid a little, like depending on when that permit gets back. I don't know, but okay.
You know, it's.
No,
I think that I'm gonna go around the council again because there might be further questions. Councilor Var, do you have any questions?
No more questions.
Okay, Councilor Heller.
No more questions of Rob. We're not in discussion, right?
No.
Okay, no
Now,
question, no.
now you have questions of Rob.
No, no more questions.
Manager.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay, that's all.
I didn't have a question. I was just gonna say that it's either at the end of this season or the beginning of next season. It's the same thing, like we could close earlier. And maybe we want to delay opening next year. But I'm anticipating we will delay. opening.
Well,
Okay, so why don't we?
That's
we'll
all,
get
that's,
into discussion in a
it's
minute.
either, yeah.
Do you have any?
Discussion.
Do you have
Either
any-
way,
Do you have any other questions of the staff or?
No, nothing related to that.
Because we'll.
Thank you, yeah.
Okay, good. Do you have any further questions?
no, thank you so much.
Okay, now, Mr. Town Manager, has any resident or guest indicated they wish to comment?
Not on this item, no.
Okay, so that closes the public comment period on this item. So now Steve isn't here, you usually turn it over to him. So, because I don't think unless anybody's ready to make a motion.
No, I'd like to discuss.
Okay, so we'll go around and see what everybody's thinking. Councilor Barr.
No, I mean, it's just that obviously it's a little bit risky. That they'll be able to do it just in the off season without delaying the start of the new season. We just, there isn't another way to do it. So in other words, we just have to accept there is a risk involved. That's all.
Yeah, can I go or?
Yeah.
You can go first.
I was gonna say that I have the same view. I mean, we don't really have a choice. It is most likely gonna impact the opening of the next season. I think that's the orientation we should have. It's very tight. It's a big project. There will be things that will go wrong. That's what happens. And so that's how we should go into it with the hope, as Rob explained, with the desire and hope that we make it through. But I don't think we have a choice,
I agree.
and I think we got to get the renovation done.
But what, do we know what, when is the pool slated to close this year?
Right after Labor Day, right?
September 11th,
September 11th?
It's not after Labor
so
Day.
we have 1 week after
See,
Labor Day.
I mean, I think there's some room maybe, because if you look at pool stats on when people attend,
Yeah,
Right.
it dwindles in that late August, September, there's a spike for
When
sure
does
at Labor
school-
Day. So MCPS starts the week before Labor Day. And then the private schools start after Labor Day. So, there's definitely perhaps a 2-week window there. That if we can get the permits back in time, maybe that's something to consider.
I think we should consider
yeah,
closing after Labor Day, which is, I don't think would be a big loss because the kids are in school and they hardly come after that. And yeah, I want to swim another week, but
But they're, I mean, they're even in school 1 week before that.
right.
They start school August 31st.
you're saying if the permits are in,
Yeah,
then let's pull the trigger.
yeah.
I agree with that.
I agree.
But
I mean,
the
we
other
could-
thing that it might impact is this party that, the non-Agerian.
That can be changed.
Okay.
Those guys are gonna go.
That can be
We
changed.
can do it also, we can do it here, that party. We don't have to change it.
Yeah, I think that we should keep an open mind about the potential of trying to start this. If the pool company is able to do it and we get the permits back like a couple weeks early, just to buy us a little bit more cushion.
I'm open to that. I mean, but for this proposal, we're ready to go forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, are you prepared to make a motion?
I am prepared to make a motion, unless someone else wants to. All right, okay, motion to approve. Motion to approve American Pool Enterprises LLC. No, motion to approve contract with American Pool Enterprises LLC for the reconstruction of the town pool deck. And other repairs to the town pool in an amount not to exceed $705,000. As recommended by the town manager.
Okay, so, Mr. Town Attorney, is that legally and technically sufficient?
It is, Mr. Mayor. Is that amount budgeted for?
Yeah, I'm reluctant to make a dollar amount.
Well, Matt will know.
Let me just double check, make sure I'm not speaking out of turn.
And also,
That amount is 100% budgeted for,
does
but
he have to
it's,
put in the motion anything about the preparing the contract and that you review it and before it's signed? Mr.
Yes,
Jones?
It's within the ceiling, it was 800.
Is that implied in the motion?
I think so, Mr. Mayor, but it doesn't hurt to say it.
Ron, I can tell you with confidence the amount is.
We actually budgeted up to 869,000.
Okay, okay,
In the FY 24 budget.
okay.
So do you, Ms. Councilmember, Gore, do you want to add anything about the,
I didn't hear that, what was it?
about the town attorney reviewing?
Yeah,
Can you-
and
can you
you
help
could just
them with-
add, and the manager and town attorney are authorized and directed to prepare a contract to that effect.
Okay. Okay, is
Prepare
that,
an
is that sufficient?
Wait, authorize, is that the motion?
No, that's addition to your motion.
Okay,
It's just,
that's accepted. I accept the addition. Do I need to repeat that?
no,
All right.
you got it right. You got the motion, everybody. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
I
Aye.
just want to tell everybody that Labor Day is Monday, September 4th.
Okay,
But I think doesn't the town manager have discretion on this now? Mr. Town Attorney?
With respect to the closing date, discretion with respect to which aspect, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, with respect to when the construction would begin, or does it have to be approved by the council?
Well, the manager has discretion with respect to when construction will begin, but I imagine the council may want to reserve the decision on whether to close the pool early if permits are in.
yeah.
Or if you're going to authorize the manager to make that call, you could do so, but that should be
But
included. in-
it could be done at the July meeting.
Exactly.
And
Right.
so why don't we talk about this on the, let's talk about this.
It would depend on when, as Shannon said, when the permits.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna close it if the permits aren't there.
So we'll put this as the agenda item for session, get an update. Okay, thank you. The next item.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
The next item, public hearing motion to consider adoption of resolution 23061. A resolution adopting the 2023 town pool activity fee schedule and amending the existing $5 fee for the stroke and technique pilot program. As requested by the town pool committee. Mr. Town Manager.
We've talked about this over the course of a couple of different meetings now. I think everybody's received the public comments. This establishes the pool fees through a resolution, which I think capture what was originally the way that we were going with this, which is to remove the $5 fee for the stroke and technique pilot program. We are able in our contract with American Pool to add, it would essentially be a contract addendum for existing contract with American Pool, who assumes the liability for the coach. So in essence, this wraps that into the other activity fees at the pool. And combines it all into one resolution.
Okay, Councilor Barr, do you have any questions?
No questions. It's just that there was a strong feeling, obviously, among the pool committee about our decision to go with a $5 fee, and perhaps we shouldn't have rushed into it the way we did. So I'm quite happy to go back to the plan that was original, which is no fee the first year, and then consider a fee in future years.
Well, that's why it's on the agenda, because at this special meeting, the council voted to impose the $5 fee. Then per our rules, council members can request another agenda item to be put on, so that's why it's on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Heller, do you have any questions?
I do. And this is probably more a question for you, Matt. So let's say we are doing our stroke and turn clinic and, in the, halfway through, nobody shows up to do this. Are we allowed to cancel this? What's our contractual agreement with American Pools? To pull the program or do we have to continue to hire the coach? You know the answer to that question?
My understanding of what we were proposing was to do a contracted addendum with them in the full amount to cover the number of classes that we've set aside for this. So I haven't had the conversation with American Pool to say, well, can we change our mind if it's.
Well, let's just, I mean, the program was approved. So I think the town attorney reviewed wasn't there a contract? Because remember, that's a question that was asked a long time ago. What's the, there's a contract with the teacher, right, Mr. Town Attorney?
The teacher, sorry, go ahead, Ron.
Well, no, Matt, you probably know better than I, but it's my recollection that American Pool contracts with the teacher, right, Matt? And we just, and then they pass the fee on to us. I'm looking for the
Yeah, exactly.
contract now.
I think I might even have it pulled up here.
I mean, the program, Matt can find out for you, but the program is right there.
So
The only issue tonight is the fee.
No, and that's why I'm just asking, because, you know, none of us know how many people are gonna go do this or not. You know, we can each go around and take a guess what we think from experience about how the pool's been used and how programs are used in general. And I guess, I just want the ability, if midway through, nobody is showing up for this, that we can say, okay, let's cancel this. We're not getting the usership that warrants paying for this.
But I think the town manager has the capacity. Is that right, Mr. Town Attorney?
I'm reading the contract
It's
right now,
setting-
Mr. Mayor.
It's
on page 5, I think, Ron, is where it talks about personnel.
Mhm.
When he's looking at that,
There he is.
No, no,
Okay, did you have any other questions?
no, I think it's one.
No, it's.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
happy for Shannon to go.
I just had a quick question about
I can go.
like the contract, which is, so as part of like how we're having this set up, are people having to go into Member Splash to sign up regardless of whether or not they are going to pay or whatever? Like, are we, how in the contract is it set up that we're tracking how many people are attending, and is it through Member Splash?
So the tracking is not, that is not negotiated in our contract. So the tracking is all what we've decided to do internally. So American Pool isn't really involved in that aspect of it, but yes, we are, the idea was that we would do it through Member Splash to do reservations for this program the same way we do for water aerobics and even lap lanes, to have some hard data that we can look at
Okay.
and evaluate for future use.
Okay,
It's
great.
good. As long as they're doing that.
Did you have a question? Did you have a question?
Yeah, no, I don't think I have any other questions at this moment.
Councilor Kumar.
Just to build on Debbie's question, Matt and Ron, I mean, it's an addendum to the American Pool contract.
Mhm,
This is a person who is contracted by American Pool,
right,
offering this service. In fact, I think it's Roger,
yes, it is.
who is offering
It is
other
Roger.
services, right? He's doing the Dolphins coaching, so
Yep.
he's contracted. And I think to Debbie's point, we have the option not to continue this next year based on the site, right? The question is, do we discontinue it midstream this year? And do we have the option to do that? And what I'm hearing you to say that nothing contractually is impeding us from doing that, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Oh, you mean stopping us from?
But this is now.
Yes,
I
nothing
was just
is,
looking for a word.
You'll get some time.
the member splash data will tell us, is this free service popular? And then do we build on that, right? That was the emails we got.
Yeah.
Like, can we build on this next year? So that's for next year. But I think Debbie's question was really not this year, this summer. If after the first few weeks, no one really shows up, can we just discontinue that part of the addendum contract to American Pool? And it sounds like we have the right, Matt and Ron has the right to say, guys, we're gonna sunset that addendum piece to American Pool because this is not being used. This-
Well, yes, and now that I'm actually thinking about it more to better answer your question. If nobody signs up, we're not gonna pay for him to just come and hang out at the pool for an hour anyway,
He's
so.
gonna be there. This is all predicated on.
Okay, hold on. Right now, that's sort of would ask questions, then you do.
So
Then remember, this agenda item is not about stroke
no,
technique. This agenda item is at the fee.
no, I think the bottom line for us is we don't want to pay for something that's not being used. And what I'm hearing Matt and Ron say, you can confirm, it's a straightforward
Yeah.
question. If we discover it's not being used, we can not pay for it.
Right, yes, yeah,
And there's nothing contractually obligating us to pay for it, even when it's not used.
right, yes.
All right. That's it. Thank you.
Okay,
Can I add some? Can I come back?
You can do another.
Remy, do you have a question?
Sort of, I did.
Because you'll be, because right now is your
No,
opportunity.
okay, I'll wait. I'll
Then
wait
you,
till
then we'll be
discussion.
having, you'll be
I can
having
wait till
discussion,
discussion.
but
Is it a question for these guys?
do you have anyone?
Then we do another round.
Okay, you,
Go ahead, Sharon.
So to kind of tail off what Kabir is saying, so if no one's using it, we don't owe American Pool $900 for this.
Right, yes, exactly, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah,
okay, do you have any, are there any more questions?
I do have a question, okay. Piggybacking off of what Shannon just said, we've asked Roger to come and do this stroke and turn clinic 1 day a week. It's after swim practice, which is why it's the where it is and what time. But he's there, he hasn't made any other plans in his day for that hour, so he's expecting to teach. I think we owe him that hour. I don't think we can just say, hey, Roger, nobody's coming, you're not getting paid, because that's not the deal we set up.
Can I jump in?
Yes, go ahead.
My understanding is in that scenario, there will be a payment. But we will then know it's not working.
Okay,
We will discontinue.
okay,
That's the kind of bargain here is that. We have the option, we'll have to do it to know whether there's interest and we will discover very soon what the level of interest is. And we the option to discontinue it not only now, but not continue it at all moving forward, is what I'm understanding.
yeah, moving forward, that is something
Okay.
the full committee will talk about. anyway.
So let me just point out that. When this recommendation originally came to the work session, I think that. There was never proper discussion on it.
Mhm.
Then we always like to have the vendor here. We've never had the vendor here to answer important questions. So I think rather than just spend so much time on this. That and you've already approved the pilot. I think that you have confidence in Matt and full confidence in manage this property, then you can review it. But I think that spending so much time on a $900 expenditure is not really that productive, but do you have any other questions of anybody, because we have to see if there's any public comment. So do you have any other questions before you have your discussion of the town
If you
manager?
have any question, Debbie's ready to make.
Yeah, go-
No, we haven't had.
Okay.
Mr. Town Manager, has any resident or guest indicate they wish?
Yes, actually, our pool committee chair, Mr. Matzak, joined us.
Well, so one, I just want to again thank the council for, I'm sorry, Matt Zaft, Dorset Avenue Pool Committee Chair. I just want to start by saying a big thank you to all of you for reconsidering this and to bringing this back and to, listening to the comments from myself and the other members of the pool committee and taking the time on this. Just to sort of assuage some the comments before, I've had conversations with Roger himself directly. He understands that, we might 3 weeks into this say, you know what, this isn't working. He's not feeling like he hasn't set aside his whole summer in essence. Like if as Kabir and Debbie pointed out, we have no one showing up, and after 3 weeks, we decide whether it be as the pool committee recommending to the council or the council then deciding to can the program, he's not going to be expecting further payment going forward. He's fine with us canceling at any time. So I think that's, hopefully assuages that fear. And again, I just want to thank you all for considering this again and removing the fee, hopefully.
Okay, thank you. Are there further?
No,
Okay,
further
thank you. Okay, council, are you prepared to make a motion?
Yes, we are. Okay. This is my finest moment.
It's just
Okay.
to adopt, it's just to adopt the
Okay,
activity fee schedule.
I make a motion to adopt the resolution for the 2023 town pool activity fee schedule and amending the existing $5 fee for the stroke and turn program as requested by the town pool committee.
Second.
Okay, is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, thank you. The next item. This is to consider introduction of an amendment to the town charter, section 8321. To extend the right to vote in the town of Somerset municipal elections to all residents 16 years and older. Mr. Town Manager.
I don't have anything to add. I think that hasn't already been said on this subject, so I'll just turn it back over to you and the council.
Okay, Council Member Barr, do you have any questions?
None, no. Obviously, we had the referendum where a majority of the town supported changing the voting age to 16. That's the only thing I'm bringing up.
And remember, this tonight is not, this is to introduce, this is just the introduction. So maybe we should have the town attorney to once again review what the process is now.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, we would have a motion to introduce this resolution to amend the charter. Following that, we have to have a public hearing at least 21 days later, but as a matter of practice, the hearing will be at the council's next monthly meeting. Then if adopted, the charter amendment would become effective in 50 days, unless within 40 days, a petition for referendum was submitted by 20% of the registered voters. Don't expect that to happen, given that you've had the advisory referendum in advance. And assuming there's no referendum, then again, the charter amendment would take effect in 50 days. We submit a copy to Legislative Services and report on the amendment. And during that 50-day window, we need to publish the proposal 4 times in the newspaper of general circulation and post a copy at the town hall.
Thank you. And the town manager wants to say something.
Yeah, just quickly, because just to address something that several people have asked me, the way that this charter amendment is written, it extends the right to vote to 16 and older residents of Somerset. That does not also extend the eligibility to serve as mayor or council, because our charter currently says that they must be a qualified voter in the town of Somerset and the state of Maryland.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Barr, I'm sorry, did you have any questions about?
No questions beyond my initial comment.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Heller.
I have no questions about, and I don't mean to be contrarian about this, but Robin, your statement that it was majority of the town is not correct, because the majority of the town did not vote.
That's
But
true.
it
The
was
majority of
60
those who voted, I stand
Yes, it was the
corrected.
majority of people who voted. It was 60-40. And I just want to say that, but no questions.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Kumar.
No question.
Councilor Rovak.
No questions.
Okay, this doesn't require a public hearing. Are you prepared to make a motion for the introduction?
I am. Motion to introduce an amendment to the town charter, section 8321. To extend the right to vote in the town of Somerset municipal elections. To all residents 16 years and older.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I heard Barr first. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I think it takes, doesn't it take 4 votes for this, the charter amendment, Mr. Town Attorney?
We have 4 votes.
I never, I see. Does it
Three
take 4? It only takes 3 votes for charter. Okay, thank you.
3 votes.
Okay, thank you. So we will put this in motion now. The next item is public hearing motion to consider approval of a selection of LED bulbs at wattages. For the, at wattages, is that right? For the proposed LED streetlight replacement project, Mr. Town Manager.
Just to recap what we've done, we've now had 2 pilot programs that showcase the 50 and 70 watt LED equivalents for straightaway areas of the road, and 150 watt LED equivalents at intersections. We've solicited resident feedback, and the council had it moved to get another look at some additional locations. We've had the environment committee take a look at it and weigh in on their thoughts and recommendations. The public safety committee unfortunately wasn't able to get a quorum to vote, but the chair did submit some comments this afternoon for the council's consideration as well. I kind of laid out what our different options are, some research that I had done, some background to give as well. You know, I think that we can be confident in our selection, that we are consistent with the environment committee's recommendations to choose the lowest temperature, the warmest appearance, coolest temperature Kelvin lights that's consistent with the AMA recommendations and the dark sky.
International Dark Sky Association.
Thank you. International Dark Sky Association recommendations. Thank you to the Environment Committee for weighing in on that and thinking about that carefully. When we're looking at our existing lights, they are predominantly high pressure sodium lights. And as we've discussed, the LED lights, one of the benefits of them is that they provide more consistent luminosity. So the wattage is really the electricity that it's using. The lumens is a reflection of how bright it is. So a 100 watt high pressure sodium bulb, and I'm going to throw a few numbers at you, so I know sometimes that's hard to follow, but a 100 watt high pressure sodium bulb provides anywhere between 2,500 and 6,000 lumens. You can see that when you walk through town, that some appear a lot brighter, some appear a lot dimmer. There's different colors even. Then the ones that we looked at again are 50 watt, 70 watt, 100 watt, and 150 watt equivalent. And when it's talking about equivalent, that's talking about the equivalency at the highest, very highest end of that high pressure sodium. So the 100 watt LED, the 100 watt equivalent LED light is actually 70 watts. So we're saving electricity, we're being better for the environment, but it's providing the maximum luminosity that our existing high pressure sodium bulbs are. So that's why this one was a little bit easier to me in a way. It made sense to recommend the 100 watt equivalent LED bulbs at intersections. Intersections typically you want a little bit brighter. The caveat there's a few intersections throughout town. I think we felt pretty good about where the 150 watt equivalent was here on Cumberland, for example. So there might be I think we definitely feel it.
No,
Cumberland and Teal, what that very first pilot. Down this road. So I think there's probably a handful of intersections throughout town where it makes sense for us to bump it up a little bit more. Again, it's staying in that AMA International Dark Sky recommendations for the color and temperature of the lights, but just boosting the visibility a little bit. Now for the straightaways, to be perfectly honest, I didn't see a huge difference, but the lumens that they provide, the 50-watt equivalent is actually about 20 watts. So we would be going from 100 watts per bulb to now 20. So we're using, you know, only 20% of the amount of electricity. And that provides just under 3,500 lumens. So it's above the lowest that our high pressure sodium bulbs do. Kind of in the low end of what the average is. The 70-watt equivalent is really a 30-watt bulb. So we're still also saving, we're using only 30% of the electricity there. So we're saving 70% on our consumption. And it provides 4,075 lumens per bulb. So it's kind of smack dab in the middle of what our existing high pressure sodium lights are. And so all that led me
With more energy.
with far greater energy efficiency. And so that taking into the consideration of what the committee had recommended, of what the various residents had recommended, what Montgomery County was doing in some of its unincorporated municipalities, thinking about what some of our neighbors are doing. It made, and also taking into consideration what the existing factors are on our lighting situation. It made sense for me to then recommend 70-watt bulbs, because as I said, they're smack dab in the middle of what our existing high pressure sodium bulbs provide. They're more energy efficient. They're consistent with all the environmental concerns that we had talked about. And provide more consistent lighting. The other element to this, which I would also like to quickly address, is just I think this pilot program did illuminate, if you will, that we do need a better and more consistent maintenance plan for the tree canopy in town, and to ensure that the street lights are not covered in that way, because as the Public Safety Committee Chair pointed out, you can have as high a wattage as you want, as many lumens as you want. They're not going to shine through a tree canopy. So that has to be a part of our ongoing plan to improve the safety and lighting throughout town. But just to sum it up, my recommendation is to move forward with the 70-watt equivalent lights at the straightaways. The majority of our intersections 100-watt, and to work together to find the few intersections throughout town where it does make sense to bump up to that 150.
That's your report.
That's that.
Thank you,
that
thank you very much. Excellent. Okay, thank you. Hold on. Councilor Barr, do you have any questions?
I have a number of comments. I'll start with saying that, as I understand the county guidelines, the 150-watt bulbs are suitable for multiple lane highways, not for two-lane roads. So I don't think they're appropriate for the town at all. I think one or two intersections might be appropriate. The 100-watt bulb may be appropriate for one or two intersections, perhaps only one. What the Environment Committee is saying is go with the lowest light that is sufficient to give brightness for people to walk or drive by. That's possible. And I think the Public Safety Committee, if they had been in quorum, would have said the same thing. But beyond that, LED lights are not a panacea for us. And what Matt said is what will probably make more difference to lighting in town is the tree contract that Matt is already looking into for maintenance of our trees, to trim trees, to allow more light through, and also to make our signs visible, because a number of them are being made invisible by trees at the moment. And that will probably do more to improve lighting in town than the LED lights will. But one important way that LED lights will improve things is their reliability. If you think about the lights on Dorset, they have never been replaced. They were supposed to last 6 months. They are now in town for 10 years and none of them have gone out. Contrast that with the mercury vapor and high pressure sodium lights, that many of which are out at the moment in town. And Pepco is terrible at repairing and replacing them despite being contacted on them, as we've also learned. LED lights are much more reliable, so we will get better lighting in town simply because they will not go out anything like as frequently as mercury vapor or high pressure sodium. And we don't have to worry about Pepco not replacing them. So to sum up, I think we should go with the lowest lights that are within an appropriate lumen range, and that's 50 watt by and large. We should increase the lighting at intersections. Most of our intersections are small, probably can manage 70 watt bulbs at them. The only exception I see is the Dorset Warwick intersection, which is a 4-way intersection and a busy intersection relatively in town, and that possibly 100 watt bulb at. I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Howell.
You know, last night I took a death-defying walk around the neighborhood, and you know, I needed a major flashlight, and I was really frightened as I walked up and down Dorset Avenue, and even Surrey from Fallstone to Dorset. Some of the sidewalks are so dark, and it is only because of the tree canopy. And I'm wondering, is the Environment Committee okay with the pruning that has to happen to illuminate our sidewalks? Some of the lights were great, and I got to looking at the bulbs, like, wow, that has great light, but they're stuck in the leaves. So I'm wondering, is the Environment Committee okay with this?
Well, maybe we'll kind of.
Okay, maybe they will, but but in front of your house, it was very dark too. And had I not had my husband with me, it's funny, I drive this a lot, and now I realize why. It's not safe to walk. And a lot of the people I encountered were walking in the street because it wasn't this frightening in the middle of the street. So I'm just really concerned about, I'm fine with the lights, whatever you want to do, I'm good with it. I think we have a tree problem. So that's just where I am.
Okay, Councilor Kumar.
I completely agree with Debbie that and I think town manager is aware of that. Keep in mind, we are at the time of the year where things have just grown.
Right.
So, part of what we experience is just the natural growth at this time of
Right.
year, and the town staff will catch up with all of that. I had a question about, so first of all, Matt, that was an excellent report. Thank you for all the effort and the time that's gone into it. I have a recommendation more than a question, is that we need to create a website, a web page, and we should put all our background on this project, because this is, I think, 20 years in the making. More than 20 years in the making. I think it wouldn't have been possible if we hadn't had the wiggle room ARPA gave us. So let's not forget that.
So why don't you, because there's a question.
Yeah. Will you be able to put up a web page?
Yeah, I'd be happy.
Providing a history and yeah. So the question I have is on timing. So if once we approve this today, what's the timeline moving forward? I believe it's still in phases. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's eight weeks to procure. I think the first would be 60 years. Yeah, it's about 60 lights in 3 different phases.
When will be fully up? Roughly.
6 months.
Okay, so by the end of the calendar year, we should be fully up. That's okay. And then your recommendation is based on the research you've done, which I believe Councilmember Barr was also involved in. And it's based on the actual experience of lights on our streets, correct? Because I didn't get the second part. Based on how there are certain sections that are particularly notorious for no ambient light and light deal in Cumberland, for instance. Is my understanding.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then and just to remind everyone, we did an initial location that was on Little Cumberland. Multiple, both 50, 70, 100, 150 at different locations, correct?
Yep.
And then we expanded that to these locations on Dorset and Cumberland and Surrey.
Yes,
Okay. And when we did the first location, we did a survey.
correct.
And in the second location, it was mostly for the purposes of the council to go visit and eyeball the particularly notorious locations in our town.
Yes.
Okay, just to get everyone acclimated on the process. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Against our road activity questions.
So. From everything that I've heard, I mean, like, you know, the real issue seems to be, at least from us, from like a deciding kind of standpoint, like what these trees. So do we have like in the budget a dollar amount set that we can trim these trees? And if so, when?
Yeah, we budget every year for tree maintenance. So this should be part of tree maintenance. One of the things I've been talking to Tolbert about is, and this also leads into the conversation about the plantings and the maintenance of that. That I think it might be worth exploring a separate contract. Enrique, you know, his company would be a good candidate for this, to be able to provide supplemental tree shrubbery maintenance throughout town, as well as some more technical maintenance of the planting beds. But I've already talked to Tolbert about putting together a list for this, you know, late spring, early-ish summer, June time, to get these trees out here to remove the trees, tree
So-
branches that are blocking lights.
So late summer-ish, so like August kind of?
Oh, no, this month.
Oh, this month?
Yeah.
Okay, and does it make sense for us to wait until the trees are trimmed before we analyze or decide on these specific lights?
My feeling, I actually thought that the 4 lights that we had up weren't really all that obstructed by lights.
You thought,
Oh, my God.
like Debbie
Which
totally
one?
thought,
Walking up, by Barton's house, by the Surrey Street light.
Those are the old.
But no, what I mean is that there was a lot of light. You just couldn't see it on the sidewalk. The sidewalk is black. It's pitch.
The LEDs.
Okay, let's, hold on.
Sorry.
Let's let Matt answer the question.
Sorry.
My experience was on Surrey in particular, I can picture the light, so the one that we have is the closest one to the Dorset intersection.
Right.
The light before that is almost 100% covered by trees. The light that we put up, I didn't find to be obstructed all that much.
I don't know. All I know is that when I did the walk, it was very dark, and both Jamie and I stood there, and he said, listen, you'd have plenty of light. If the trees weren't obstructing, he goes, look, they're obstructing the light. It would be fine to walk here. It was not safe to walk.
Yeah.
And until you trim, I'm not walking tonight.
Okay, Shannon, you.
and then. In addition to that, you know, with the public safety committee's input, I mean, you know, another big issue too is the sidewalks, you know, like you said. And so do we have sidewalk, like what's the status and update for the sidewalk maintenance, and what are we gonna do about that?
We have a crew coming out a week from today that's gonna be fixing various tripping hazards.
Right here in your report.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, the other thing too, Kumar seemed to suggest that we might be getting overcharged for our quote. Like he seemed to think that the Tacoma Park lighting was significantly cheaper.
That's it's not really a fair comparison to compare us to Tacoma Park. I mean, Robin might be able to give some. historical-
It's not a fair comparison.
Right.
And Kumar knows it. Tacoma Park was given a special deal by Pepco because Pepco wanted to see what LED lights would look like. And they were the first, and that's why they got that deal.
There's subsidy.
I asked the Pepco employees about that $1,250 fee. It is the standard fee for swapping out that piece of the light that in the PSC schedule and in the actual schedule. So they're not overcharging us. It is the charge that is in the schedule. That's it. It's expensive. I asked whether you could replace just the bulb rather than the whole unit, and they said, no, it's an integrated bulb in the unit. You have to replace the whole unit. So there is no way other than to pay that schedule to do this right. We are using ARPA funds for it, in fact. So that is at least something. Again, what I'm trying to say is that what LED lights will do for us is not create brilliant light in the town. They won't. What they will do is create reliable light in the town for us. And we certainly want that. That's the improvement we're going to see from the LED lights. That's it. Okay.
And so are you guys confident that, if we're gonna vote tonight, and we're not rushing into this, like, I know it's been 20 years in the making, but 25. Are you confident that
Define rush.
what's another year? Are you confident that, this is the right decision that we're making? And that there isn't something better, like, perhaps doing lower hanging street poles or, I don't even know what, but like, that there isn't anything better, that we should be, not rushing into anything.
Well, why don't you ask that when you discuss?
I guess I would say I don't know, maybe it wasn't directed towards me, that's more a council.
Let's speak to.
No, I was
I think
asking you, Matt.
Well, I guess I'll certainly say, I am confident, I think to Councilmember Barr's point, I'm confident that these light selections are better for the environment. They reduce our consumption of electricity. They provide more consistent lighting. And so it's a win-win-win in terms of environment, finances, and public safety. Whether or not there's other technology that we could pursue, there probably is, and I think that this doesn't preclude us from doing that. I do recall that when we were looking at underground lighting and trying to do the cost was astronomical, and it just unfathomably expensive. I mean, millions of something like $1 million per I can't even remember what it was, but I mean it would cost the town $10 million to do that. Don't quote me on those numbers, but
Yeah,
I think
It was something like that.
but I do think that this should improve our situation. I think having a consistent maintenance plans for the trees will improve our situation, probably even more than the lights will. And then from there may be other things that we could do. We could look at some foot lighting in certain areas, look at other hanging lights.
There's some areas where
Poles.
new posts and poles for lights.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, did you have any other?
That's my only.
So before we take comments from the residents, I guess, I should have said at the beginning that we really need to congratulate and thank Matt, because this is his recommendation. it's based on tons and tons of work and lots of input from committees and residents and all of you. And so this is really, this final recommendation is really based on his incredible work on this. So we really need to thank him.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, is there, did you, Mr. Chair, so please, we have a beautiful podium now. Please come over and tell us who you are, and we're trying to impress our new deputy town manager about our processes here.
Okay, hi, everyone. I'm Bart Rubenstein, Chair of the Environment Committee for the Town of Somerset. Very proud to be a part of this neighborhood. I want to congratulate, in particular, Matt, for all of his work. Matt and I have been working very closely for a number of years now, doing a lot of environmental work together. So we share the same passions for being a part of the new future that we're trying to create for our neighborhood as well as for the rest of the world. And keep in mind that, everything that we do here today is going to have a ripple effect. So we're not just solving problems for our town, but we're actually making decisions that will reverberate across the county and across the nation. And in fact, most of the things that I'm going to just talk briefly about today is that, the recommendations that the Environment Committee has made is based on, our understanding of what's going on nationwide. And, I did studies and learning about stuff in San Francisco, for instance. California is obviously the leader in many things, environmentally speaking. So to that point, I just wanted to make sure everybody, committee members and all know what the Environment Committee's recommendations are, which are, by the way, in line with the Safety Committee. And that is, Petco is only offering the lowest 3,000 Kelvin bulb, which is the low end of Kelvin, but if you go to 2,700, it becomes even slightly yellower and warmer light, which is what we're used to in our town. So 3,000 is a little bit of a compromise, to be perfectly honest, but San Francisco uses 2,700. Pepco has a mind of its own. So just, we shouldn't look to Pepco for guidance. I just want to remind everybody that they are an outlier of what's going on in the nation. So, and then as far as the wattages, obviously LEDs are great because they save energy, and they also, these fixtures are designed for more focus straight down and away from people's windows. So that's actually a huge plus, because dispersing light is a major issue in cities. So that's a very positive thing. And as far as the wattage choices, both the committees that I just mentioned highly recommend, based on the stuff that we've been studying nationwide, that the 50 watt bulb is really the one that we would like you to consider or reconsider from your proposal. I know both of them are in the same range. The Public Safety Committee feels that there hasn't been any hazards or accidents in town that would warrant us to seriously take up, like, oh, we need more light in town. So we feel that the light that exists now is sufficient to doing what it's done for years. And we feel, and I've actually, like Debbie, I've been out in the middle of the night. I actually took a light meter with me. I had on one. So I was studying the different lights at 3 in the morning when there's no, very little light coming in from Bethesda, nightlight. So as Robin has already described, I sort of concur with what Robin's ideas were, that 50 should be considered for the town's straightaways, and then at the intersections that 100. So it's the lower choices. I personally feel, and from our work researching other municipalities around the country, that these are the right choices. And keep in mind, like I said earlier, the choices that we make as a town are going to reverberate across the county. So we're not just making a choice for this town, but we're going to be doing for other municipalities. And I work with a lot of colleagues from different municipalities around the state, and they look to us. They're very impressed with Somerset, with the leaf blower ban and other stuff. So I'd like you just to consider that this is an important decision. I mean, we've reached this 11th hour. I think of Alan Proctor, who I was friends with. You know, I do agree, Debbie, that, you know, the Environment Committee does support the trimming of branches, because I know we have a lot of inconsistency issues. And I think that if we just did that, we would clean up a lot of our light imbalances. So with the LED and trimming, we're gonna bring more light to the streets naturally. So I don't think we need to up it, or we can err on the side of just below the middle is just our committee's recommendation. And I don't mean to say it in a way to, you know, come face to face with your recommendation, Matt, but I would like, you know, for the committee to reconsider 50 as opposed to 70. And I think that, you know, tonight is the right night to make this vote. I really feel like we have reached the 11th hour. We have so many things in place. Is it a perfect decision? You know, maybe not. Maybe it would have been great to have 2,700, but how many years are we going to wait for PEPCO to come forward with 2,700 kelvins? So I think I'm pleased with being here at this moment. And I hope that the committee, the council considers that this is the night to make that vote. Thank you.
Okay, so you're basically making an alteration to his recommendation, right?
That one.
Okay, so therefore, let me ask, have the council ask questions. Council Member Barr, do you have any questions of the chair?
Barton, do you believe 100-watt equivalent bulbs are necessary at all the intersections in town, or only some of the intersections in town?
You know, as far as choosing, I don't think we should, did you say, I didn't hear you clearly. Were you saying that all the intersections should be 100? What were you saying?
I'm asking a question of you. In other words, do you believe that we need 100-watt equivalent bulbs at all the intersections in town, or only some of the intersections in town?
Yeah, my personal feeling based on conversations with both committees is that we should not go beyond 100 watts for any of the intersections. And if possible, we should consider slightly less, maybe 70 watts for some intersections that are lesser intersections. And maybe for, you know, Warwick, Dorset, for instance, we can, you know, those are intersections where, you know, the cut through traffic still continues. So we might consider those intersections like Surrey and Dorset also. Surrey and Dorset is the top of the hill where we go downhill. That might also be a place to have a 100-watt bulb. But other than that, I think it would be still appropriate and sufficient, because none of the intersections that are there today have increased wattage. Is that correct?
Some of absolutely, the Dorset and Warwick has an increased light, as I believe does the Surrey and Dorset one.
But all around the rest of the neighborhood, are they're just
Not
regular
sure whether, I haven't really looked to see whether they are, but certainly the one at Dorset and Warwick has increased lighting at the moment.
right.
It would, you know,
I did look around the neighborhood, and the intersections don't have any special lights. And all those sort of lesser intersections, just to coin that term. So, I mean, if you want to increase it slightly, you know, maybe use 70 for that, there's lesser ones. But certainly for the important intersections, I think 100 is appropriate.
okay.
Is that you're done with your questions?
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Helen.
Is 100 what's at Cumberland and Surrey, that intersection?
That's 150.
That's the bright one. That's the crazy bright one.
That is bright. That was great, but you know, compared to everything else.
It's the same as deal.
Yeah, but I don't remember that as much, but that was really like, what my
That's
husband
great.
said was, what do the people think that live in that house? He wondered if they were concerned by it. But,
That's to the point of the brightness is, I think, a little bit of an overreach.
is it?
But the 100, I think, would be boundaries of like not.
Which ones had the 100? Was the one in front of your house? No?
No, that one was a 50 or 70, the other intersection. was-
Dorset and Warwick.
Those are one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was
That
pretty good too. I thought that was sufficient.
That was, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm done.
Okay, Councilor.
But I just want to be clarified. So the environmental committee is not in favor of 70 straightaways and 100 at intersections. So let me say one thing. We're moving forward the LEDs. Okay, we're gonna do the LED lights. We have the budget. None of that is, we're not pulling that back. The question here is really wattage and you heard Matt's recommendation. He said it's the, the middle of the average of what we're seeing right now. It's 3,000 kelvins. By the way, Tacoma was 3,000 kelvins, if I'm not mistaken.
That's the only thing they were offered.
Yeah, so, but they use that, and that's the standard that exists in.
Well, that be careful, that's what we don't want to get to, because we don't want the whole county.
But there are no complaints in Tacoma, as far as I know. So my question is, you're not in favor then of 70 straightaways, 100 intersections, 150 at selected intersections?
What you just said, no, that's not what our committees are.
You're not in favor of that.
We're in favor of 50 in the straightaways
Okay,
and
and why is that? Can you help us understand? Because
we feel that.
Because environmentally, we are not gaining anything or losing anything from what I understood from Matt's presentation.
It's a little less light, it's
But
8 watts is less than 70 watts.
because I understand we want to light certain areas better for safety reasons. So environmentally, we are doing really well. This is a great call we're making. Now we are deciding, should we light certain areas better for safety reasons, for all the things we know about our town?
Okay, so to respond to that, 2 things. First of all, using less light is actually more environmentally better. 50 is better than 70, because it's not just about saving energy, it's also about making the nocturnal environment to be healthy for the ecosystem, for the birds. So we want it, in a perfect world, it would be great not to have any lights. Okay, just so that you know. Well, I'm just saying in a perfect.
That
world,
would not be a perfect world. I want to be very clear with you on that. That would not be a perfect world.
will be a perfect world, maybe not for human beings.
For most of our town, for who we represent, it would not be a
Well,
perfect.
that's right, and that's
world.
why we didn't make that recommendation. We're making a recommendation based on our residents. So it's not based on, we're not representing the Blue Jays here, but
Yes,
we are trying to be respectful of the fact that we live in an ecosystem. So to the point, we feel that 50, which is slightly less light than 70, is enough of a difference that we would recommend that you consider that over 70. So we would recommend 50 for the straightaways, and for the intersection, certainly not over 100. We would say 100 is fine, but we would also like to say that most of the intersections in town are still about 50 or 70 right now. So we have no reason, there's no reason that we feel as the environment committee or the public safety committee, they don't feel that there's any reason that those intersections need to be better illuminated. We feel that they're sufficient. That's what the committees made those recommendations, and those recommendations were based on doing studies around, and checking with other municipalities.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Councilmember.
Do we know, so, and maybe this isn't a question for you, I'm not sure, for the group.
Well, now you're asking questions of him because then we have.
She has no written spoken.
Okay, never mind, I don't have any, thank
Okay,
you.
okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else?
Yes, we have a couple of additional business. which,
Okay.
Uh,
I see the chair.
Yes. Yep.
I'm sorry, did you recognize? me?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank the council, the town manager and the mayor for putting all this hard work into this effort, and also the chair of the environment committee. You've done really yeoman's work. I sent in about 8 pages of comments today. I know it was, way too much for you to read. I'll just try to hit on the high points. And I'm appearing in my personal capacity as a resident because the Public Safety Committee tried to meet, we didn't have a quorum. So I'm not making any specific recommendation on wattages, but I wanted to just address one thing real quick about Tacoma Park. Yes, it's true they got 3,000 Kelvin bulbs. Midway through that procurement process, they changed their mind. They wanted to go with 2,700 and Pepco wouldn't let them. So I just wanted to make that point that Tacoma Park actually wanted 2,700 Kelvin. Okay, back to this issue of the wattage and strength of the lights. So the Public Safety Committee has always advocated for a holistic approach to public safety. I think even today, people acknowledge that tree trimming will do more to address sidewalk dark spots than lights. And I personally think you don't have enough information right now to make a determination about wattages. You need to trim the trees first, frankly, and find out how it looks. If you get these brighter lights and then you trim the trees, you're going to end up just flooding the area with excessive light. And back to this issue of health and safety impacts, excessive light at night does have adverse health effects on human beings and on the environment. And, you're better off getting the correct amount of light rather than excessive light. I want to share my screen if I could for a minute, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think you should be able to.
So this is 5707 Surrey, where you have this 70-watt equivalent light that is in the town's plan for this LED procurement. And I'm showing you with the cursor, here's the street. It's pretty well lit up by this light. On the sidewalk, it's dark. And I know that the town manager said he didn't see any obstruction. It's pretty dark right there, literally underneath that street light. And I found the same thing at Warwick and Dorset, where if you stand near that mailbox right at the corner of Warwick and Dorset, that sidewalk right there, it's shrouded, it's covered by foliage, so that the sidewalk is dark. And same with the adjacent sidewalk on Dorset, right at that corner. So I'm not really convinced that using excessive wattages is gonna solve this sidewalk issue of dark spots. The lower wattages probably provide enough light just in a general way. And then tree trimming might cure a lot of what's going on here. But you're just wasting electricity and possibly putting excessive light in an area. Those higher wattage bulbs have more glare. They can blind drivers. They can prevent you from getting a good description of a fleeing criminal. And I think you have to be really careful. And my suggestion is, if you're going to go with those higher wattage bulbs, try it out on 2 streets, see how it works out before you commit the town to getting those higher wattage bulbs for the whole town. Let me just show you a couple other things. This dark spot here, see that car? This is one light pole south of 5707. Sorry, it's the light pole is right near the driveway for Bertie Peachnick's house on Essex. Sorry, on Surrey, because she's on the corner lot. This is the light. It's completely enveloped, and you can see a little bit of it right here. It's completely enveloped in tree foliage. And I would really just strongly urge you to trim the trees now. You'll get a picture of what the town's actual lighting situation is. The other thing is, and I'm going to do a Brett Kavanaugh moment here. I've reported just in the last 3 months, I've reported 43 malfunctioning and non-working lights to Petco. These are my logs, but it's not really easy to see on the screen. Petco has a deplorable record with fixing lights. Sometimes you have to report a light 3 or 4 times just to get them to fix it. And I don't think the council has a really good perception of what our lighting situation in town is. And I don't think you can make a decision right now on what wattage of lights to use until we do the tree trimming and you get Petco to fix the lights. And the final thing is, this is a sidewalk in the 5400 block of Surrey Street. I don't see any benefit to simply illuminating sidewalk hazards. I think we should just, the way to address sidewalk hazards is to fix the sidewalks. And again, I think, you know, it's a balancing act between public safety and protecting the environment, but I'm not really convinced that flooding the area with light is gonna really solve any sidewalk problems. But, you know, that's, again, I appreciate all the work that you've put into this. That's my comment.
Oh, okay, thank you. I think we should take questions since he's the chair. Councilor Barr, do you have any questions of the chair?
There's the one point I don't agree. I agree with much of what Kumar said, but I don't agree with waiting till we've trimmed the trees before we decide on wattages. There are multiple reasons to move ahead with ordering lights now. Apart from the fact that we've been waiting close to 20 years to do this, we're using ARPA funds for this money. And
Well, okay, but do you have any questions of the chair there? That you could, when you were debating it, you could. But do you have any questions of the chair's comments
well,
or his expertise?
I agree with most of the comments. I don't agree with the comments on waiting till the trees are trimmed, and I can explain that later. All right, I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Howard, do you have any questions? of the
No, I
chair?
don't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Councilor-
you, Kumar.
Yes, Mr. Vaswani, can you pull up your first photograph? It was 5707 Surrey, I believe.
Sure.
5407, sorry.
That's 57.
5707, yeah.
Okay, I have to share my screen. Now, I will say that the phone camera obviously doesn't do it justice. You just have to really go see it yourself, but this is the,
I am intimately familiar with that sidewalk.
I actually
So,
took pictures of it last night. I haven't.
so your point here is the street is lit, but the sidewalk isn't. The sidewalk isn't lit because of the foliage. Correct?
right.
But, you know, in reality, it's more than the foliage. It is actually the tree. If you remove the tree, the sidewalk will be lit. We can trim all the foliage we want. We will still have the shadow of the tree. I want to make this point, not to say I'm advocating for cutting down the tree, but I think that is part of the challenge in our town is that we do have tall trees. You know, so this logic that somehow that means we shouldn't have as much brightness as we can see with all the environmental concerns which we have managed amiably, 100% managed. Doesn't add up in my mind because to really achieve the outcome you're drawing out, we would actually have to cut the tree or severely trim the tree, which I don't think we will do. That's not what we're going to do. At least that's not I would be comfortable with doing, you know, so I agree that this is not the foolproof solution. But I'm wondering if my implication there is correct. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on into a speech here, but am I drawing the correct implication there?
I think you are correct in that we can't just like obliterate the trees, but the point I'm trying to make is, you know, between as 50 watt equivalent and 70 watt equivalent, having the 70 watt equivalent might not help you much because it's not going to penetrate the foliage.
Here, at this specific location, I agree it will not radically improve the sidewalk. but that is not going to be true everywhere in town. That's just not going to be true everywhere in town. And just to be clear, I want to clarify, you said we should test the lights out at different streets. We have tested the lights out at different streets. I hope you're aware of that. We did it not only on Little Cumberland, but we did it on 3 other intersections, 3 other locations, which Debbie was describing earlier. I just want you to be aware that we actually have gone through a process where we had the lights, all of the wattages on Little Cumberland, and then all the wattages on 3 other locations that have historically been notoriously dark. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No, he is, because he corrected all of the lights.
Right.
Okay, because you mentioned, please put them and test them out on different streets. I assume you knew, but I just want to clarify, we have done that.
Yeah, he gave me the list.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So you are aware that we have done that?
Them all, yeah.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm well aware that you tested them out on different streets. What I'm saying is recommending is that go with council members Heller's idea that she expressed in a previous meeting, which is now you're going to end up doing this in essence, if you're doing a third of a town, then a third, and then a third, but try these out on a couple of streets and see what people think, because you may find that you're just putting, even with that excessive amount of light, it's not helping the pedestrian situation. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying that as between 50 and 70 watt equivalents, the 70 watt may not help you.
Look, I have one more follow-up question on that. You use the phrase excessive amount of light. You heard the town manager explain that this is equivalent to the, what was it, the midway, of what we are experiencing today in town. How are you defining excessive? Are you simply saying excessive as in relative to the options, or excessive relative to what we have today?
I'm saying excessive beyond what you need. And it is true that there's light, according to the town manager, they're somewhere in the middle range. But as Councilmember Barr has noted, more of the light is directed downward. It's not being scattered about. So that may actually make up for it. Unless you do photometric studies, measure the actual amount of light hitting the ground under our current lights versus these demonstration lights, you'll really never know, other than just by eyeballing it, which one's producing more light. So, I can't really say whether these LEDs are going to produce more light or less light than our current high pressure sodiums, but
Great, okay,
when I say excessive light, I just mean excessive light.
great, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Councilor, back to your questions.
No,
Okay,
thank you.
Did any other?
Yes, Lucy Freeman, see that you have your hand up.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I might have to. There.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I'm unmuted. It's Lucy Freeman. I'm on Ballstone 4719 Ballstone. And I walk every night usually at 9 o'clock, sometimes later. And I feel I want to start this way in saying, night is night. And I like looking at the stars. I like looking we have this very special moon, and I like looking for the special moon. I just think, I like being out when it's dark, and I think that the animals and other people, are fine with it. I agree with everyone is saying that the problem is not the wattage. I think 50 is fine everywhere, but the problem is that the light is not reaching the sidewalk. And a while ago, several years ago, everyone talked about having sort of short light poles so that they would well, here we go, I can do this, short light poles so that you wouldn't have the problem with the trees, with the leaves. I don't know what happened there, but there's a second problem that I think a lot of this, some of the streets, there just not very many light bulbs. I was walking on Cumberland from Surrey to Warwick. That is extraordinarily dark. I haven't, that to me is about as dark as the streets get. And you can put high watts everywhere. There's no pole there. And so I think you have to go around town and see where somehow or other, how you can get more light. The two intersections you're talking about, Cumberland and Surrey, and Warwick and Dorset, I thought that was appalling. You know, on the Cumberland one, I could have sat and read a book. Well, that is not nighttime. You're not supposed to be able to sit and read a book out on your curb at 9:30 at night. And what about the people who live around there? I think Debbie said her husband mentioned that. You know, is it going in everyone's windows? Is everyone having to buy blackout curtains if they live near an intersection? And here's something else I thought. It felt like a prison yard, you know, when you're there with sort of that artificial light lighting it up so much. So,
I
but
have no experience with prison yard, so.
yeah. Well, anyway, a bunch of us just read a book about prisoners, but
Well, that issue had come up years ago too. We don't want to.
what'd you say, Jeffrey? I couldn't hear you.
Remember, Lucy, years ago, there was a group that's anti-light pollution that didn't want our town to look like a prison.
Yeah, okay, I'm still there. I guess that was discussed years ago. I'm
Yeah.
still there. I don't want our intersections to
Right.
look like it. Our intersections don't need such bright lights because, you know, they're intersections and it's not, you don't have trees going all the way along. You have streets. And so I think that 50 is just fine everywhere. And I think you have to, there's this issue about the leaves, but also there's the issue about if there are no lights, then it's pretty dark. And Cumberland's hard, Dorset's hard, Warwick, Surrey, those streets can be dark at night.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. No other comments.
Okay, so now I'm going to end the public comment part of this agenda item, and now it is decision time. And given that I don't think is anybody ready to make a motion, or do you want to?
I have a
Do you
question.
want to discuss it? So,
I want to discuss one.
okay, well, let's. In Steve's image, I'm going to start the debate, start the discussion, and we'll go. He often goes from the.
Go any way you want.
So I'm going to start with Councilor Rovak.
Okay, so my question I was gonna ask, Burton, was that, so can we, like, what's the, do we have to order all of the lights all at once? And can we, what happens if we put in a certain wattage and we want to change that wattage out?
If we, so for example, if we. This is a hypothetical that we installed lights on Cumberland here, we did 150 and 70 at the intersections and straightaways, and then. Came back to Pepco and said, actually, as it turns out, these are too bright, and we changed them out. My understanding is that we would pay the same equivalency to.
So like the $1,300 per pole or whatever fee?
Right, yes.
It is. And so when we are signing up with Pepco to do these lights. You know, I know they were talking about different phases and like every phase is like an 8-week out lead time. Do we order all of the lights at one time?
We could do either. We had talked about putting it in all at once to help expedite the project.
Do we know, are the lights in stock? I mean, is that a issue?
That's why they said it would take about 8 weeks in each phase.
I was under the impression that their 8-week phase was more because they have their own scheduling issues with their people. It wasn't that it was dependent on the lights coming in. Because they need, I mean, basically what they were saying, and which I've witnessed myself, is that, you know, they need an 8-week lead time in order to get, you know, their staffing and everyone kind of all set in order to implement what they want. So it didn't seem like it was based on the actual product coming in. It was more their workload.
That's right. So, and that was why ordering it all at once would expedite it, because there's kind of multiple elements to it. There's procuring the lights themselves. I think they actually end up subcontracting a lot of the work, so it's getting the contract out there, hiring the right person. So, and then moving
Right,
it
so I
forward.
guess the main question is, how much time does it take for these lights to come in from order? And I mean, it might be a question that we have for Pepco. And, you know, when can we order them? Like, you know, maybe we should, you know, if June is coming up with the tree trimming, people, you know, maybe we should take it almost street by street or a couple streets at a time. And, you know, phase it in with their own long backlog also, and kind of see where we end up. You know, with the lights that we decide to go with, you know, if we decide to go with 50s and then 100s at the intersection, but then we find that on Dorset, after we trim the trees, 50 isn't enough, you know, or vice versa, you know, I mean, just any scenario. Do we have to lock ourselves in?
Okay, let me point something out. So you don't have to make a decision tonight. The item can be tabled to the next, whatever you want it to be. Because I do think that you're making a big decision and you want to have as much information as possible. Now, I know that the Pepco rep did answer some of those questions at some of the meetings, and probably when you met with him. But I don't think, you don't want to make this decision hastily. So it's also possible tonight that you can put all the questions out on the table, and and then we can confirm this with the town attorney. But the item could be tabled until a future meeting.
Mhm.
So you're not under the gun. You're not under the gun to make the decision tonight.
Mhm.
You know, it's been 30, whatever
Yeah.
years. But you want to make the decision with as much information as possible. And so,
Yeah, I feel like, you know, I feel like everyone has made a lot of really compelling arguments that we don't want to be a prison, you know, light up area. And, you know, at the same time, I mean, I was really looking at it more in the sense that I would like to be able to see better when I walk down the street, but you know, if that's solved more by trees, then I would definitely go towards the lower wattage and, you know, trying to have better lighting with the lowered wattage. So that's my personal opinion, is that I would like to see, my personal opinion is that I would like to see if we can maybe stagger or find out from Pepco, you know, when we have to order this by, and, you know, what their scheduling cycle will be, so that we can try and match that once we do make our decision with the quickest way kind of around that.
okay, good. You can't.
I just want to make a clarification.
It's just for the council.
You know, I appreciate that we don't need to rush it, but I am feeling like a lot of investment has gone in, and I think it's an important decision. The way I had seen this was that we were doing a number of things here. We were, yes, there is an environmental sort of imperative. By the way, this is, as Bart was saying, we will see this across the county, across the state, across multiple states. This is an inevitability for street lighting. I'm pretty confident about that. But I think one of the other dimensions here was that this is about efficiency, significant energy efficiency. which is not something to sneeze at. And I think that we've actually been wanting to get this done via Pepco. That's why it's been 20, 30 years. That's why it has taken so long. And that's why the Tacoma Park options were also challenged for a variety of reasons, as we've heard today. So I feel like we were trying to do something that's good for the environment, something that gives us energy efficiency. We also heard today that we've had the challenge with lighting in our town is multifold. One is what Debbie, you observed, that there's a tree canopy that impedes light. Two is we don't have enough, the bulbs are inconsistent and are not always operational, but maybe the third problem, they're not always operational. We don't have enough poles. So there is there are multiple layers to it. This doesn't address all of them. What it does is give us consistent lighting across town at a certain level that I believe will potentially improve our baseline from where it is now, from what we heard from Matt. So I think in terms of, so I feel confident that we should move forward with this. I feel very confident that this is the right call. I'm grateful that we have the ARPA wiggle room to make it happen because we didn't budget for it all these years. So I'm very grateful that we can make that happen. I think in terms of whether it's 50 versus 70, 100 versus 150, I have to say that I'm inclined to go with the research Matt did and what I saw. So what I saw, that additional enhancement, I mean, what we've consistently heard is that 50, 70, there's a marginal difference. That additional enhancement is worth it for me. If we can light the street just a little bit more, that's I know the argument somehow now, even within the universe of LED, if we go with 50, we are we're more environmentally friendly than we go with 70. I'm a little uncomfortable with that logic because I'm clearly very environmentally friendly. Suddenly the bar just got very significantly raised. That if you don't go with 70, if you don't go with 50, somehow we are not making the right call for the environment. I don't feel that. I think they are actually quite similar, and the 70 gives us a little bit more light, which I'm for, which would be good for us. I think the 100 and 150, I do agree there's a noticeable difference. I don't think the 150 is for most intersections. It's not, because it is significant difference. But I think it made sense at the Deal Cumberland intersection. It made sense that I walked by it and I was like, this is a lot better. Significantly a lot better. I didn't feel it was a prison yard. I mean, I don't even know if I would make that analogy, but it didn't feel that way. It felt like this is what it should be. This is next to a school. This is how it should look like. So I can see there would be some intersections where the 150 would make sense. I would propose a couple of others which we may disagree with, but I would propose a couple of others. So the 100, 150, I appreciate the logic that let's stick to 100 at the intersections with a very selective 150 in certain areas. Deal Cumberland definitely qualifies in my mind based on what I observed. And that's why I wanted all of us to go and look at these lines. I think that Warwick and Dorset, I would feel the same way about it. Major intersection by the school. I think Dorset and Wisconsin, closer to our entrance, I would feel the same way about it. Beyond that, we probably will be good with 100. So I think this was about, let's do something good for the environment. Let's get energy efficiency. Let's take control over the process that has stymied us for 30 years. And let's make our environment as safe as we can make it by lighting it. It still doesn't cure all the problems with lighting. Doesn't cure all of it. We have to do all the other things. And that's been a consistent problem. I've also sent, as Matt knows, multiple lists. I don't have logs like Kumar Vaswani, but I've sent him multiple lists of light fixtures over the last 2 years. We all do it. That will be a constant battle. We will have that battle. We may want to look at Debbie's suggestion of low, Rohit Khanna has also suggested that, more lower fixtures. We may want to add additional poles. We've talked about all that. This is not going to solve everything, but it's a significant improvement on our baseline. So, and I feel we have good research. We've spent the time, we've listened to Pepco. So I feel pretty confident that we should move forward. And my proposal would be the Matt's proposal. 70 in the straightaways, 100 at the intersections, and 150 in select intersections where we are very confident it will make a difference and thankfully, hopefully will not be a prison yard like Deal and Cumberland, where undeniably it's an improvement.
My turn. Okay. I think it's important that we move forward too. 30 years is a long time and it's time to go. But I just wonder if this is a radical thought or not. Why not wait a few weeks? Let's trim a couple of trees. Let's go to the ones that we, are 4 lights that, that we looked at. Let's trim over there and then look at it again and go, well, this is pretty cool. Maybe we can do 50s. So I'd like to incorporate some of what Barton is talking about, because I think there's room to be more specific in terms of the street, like this street should get 50, this one should get 70, whatever, I think Matt's done a tremendous amount of work. And so why don't we just get somebody in to trim the trees? What's his face? Who did you say could be our
Enrique.
Bring in Enrique, he knows our stuff. Say trim the trees on Surrey, and Dorset, whatever the 4 locations are, trim it, and then let's come back in 2 weeks and look at it.
I'm fine with that. I just want you to know that like that location, I don't think it will make a radical difference because it's not foliage blocking the light. It is literally the shadow of
Okay.
the tree.
Then let's
You
talk
know.
about in front of Barton's house and on Surrey. It will make a difference. It has to make a difference.
But just so you know, Debbie, and we can go check right now, the Dorset Warwick light has no obstruction.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking
But
about,
those-
She's talking about the older trees.
I'm talking about
lights.
You're talking about the older lights.
Yeah.
There are 100% that section is bad. That has the,
you can light it up with 1,000,000 watts, and you're not gonna see the street because the canopy is covering it. So I'm just saying, why don't we just go in,
no,
ask if we can come in on Monday?
we should do that, but all I want to say is, if I may clarify, one thing is that the lights that you are mentioning are not the demo lights.
Of course they are. The 2 lights on Surrey and on in front of Barton's house, those are demos. It was on the list. There were 4 lights. I
Yeah.
visited all 4 of them last night. And
So those 2 but the other 2 are not obstructed, just so you know.
No, I'm not talking about the 2. I'm talking about these 2.
Okay, and what's your view of the 2 that are not obstructed?
I think.
That's what,
Okay, so
So-
actually, I think the guys up at Surrey and
Cumberland.
Cumberland are a bit light, okay?
Too much light.
Yes, I would bring that down, but I don't want to get into the weeds here. I don't think I'm qualified to. I think Matt is qualified to look at that. I think Barton is qualified. And maybe Kumar, but I'm not,
So
okay?
I think that there's a general consensus,
Okay,
like
hold-
if we
before
were
we come,
to.
let's hear what, did you finish your introductory comments?
I finished mine.
Okay, let's hear what Councilor Barr says and then you can continue.
Right. We're, first of all, we're obviously not agreed here. I certainly disagree with Kabir's belief that we need 150 watt at any intersection. If you read the county guidelines or the state guidelines on 150 watt, they are designed for multi-lane highways, divided highways, not little 2-lane roads in a town, really.
But Robin, if you look at Deal and Cumberland.
Can I,
know it's not a-
can I finish, please?
Yes, but I'm just pointing out, it's based not on it's based on direct observation of the light.
Okay, can I talk about Deal and Cumberland? Deal and Cumberland had no light in it for months. And it was very dark, and Shannon was complaining about it bitterly, and fortunately complained about it to the right person, because after Shannon complained, it got a light, which was a high pressure sodium light, and the light at Deal and Cumberland then was pretty effective with that high pressure sodium light. We never had a 100 watt light at Deal and Cumberland. We never had a 70 watt light at Deal and Cumberland. We never had a 50 watt light at Deal and Cumberland. All we had was a 150 watt light, which was overwhelmingly bright, in fact, there. So there is no need for a 100 watt bulb there. There's probably no need for a 100 watt bulb there. In fact, the high pressure sodium one that was there was sufficient, and modeling that in a LED is fine. But my more general point is that we're not agreed, and Steve is not here. So what I'm going to suggest is that we table the motion to July, That may allow some tree trimming to be done around the pilot lights, so we can see what kind of improvement happens between now and July. And if that can be arranged, Matt, that would be terrific. In July, hopefully Steve will be here and all of us will be here. I'll even be in the room with any luck.
Okay, so your motion is a motion to table.
It is a motion to table, yes.
To, Mr. Town Attorney, doesn't that have to be should it be to a time certain or he did? You can just
Table to our July meeting. It actually is formally a motion to table to our July meeting.
Okay, that's legally and technically sufficient, correct?
That's sufficient, Mr. Mayor, and you know Robert's rules better than me. Technically, I think if a matter is tabled, then you need a motion to untable it. So
Yeah, at the meeting, right. So that'll be the.
if you don't want to have a motion to untable, then you could just have a motion to postpone.
Well, okay.
Well, he's making the motion to table, so is there a second?
Oh, yes.
Okay, is there discussion?
The table till when?
It's the table to the July
Postpone it to the
meeting.
July meeting is really what I mean.
Just to,
So,
can I ask a question, Robin?
Of course.
I'm asking Robin.
Yeah. That's-
Do you, what would you like to do between now and then?
Between now and that, first of all, I want Steve also in the room so that he can give us his views, since we are not actually all here. And we're not speaking with one voice among the four of us.
Well, do we? just to
Secondly,
clarify-
I believe that in the month of June, as Matt has said, we may well get trees trimmed where the pilot lights are, and I'm hoping that can happen. So we can have a look at them and see what difference tree trimming makes, which will help our decision making. And those are the main reasons for moving it to July in both cases. I am also laying out that I do disagree with you, Kabir, very clearly on any need for 150 watt bulb anywhere in town. It's absolutely inappropriate. We should not go above 100 watts. And I believe that 50 watts are fine for most of our street lights, maybe 70 watts.
Well, that goes beyond his question, but because you don't want to redebate it, but so does that answer your question?
I want to, I just want to clarify, I have a follow-up to that question.
Go for it.
Which is that, Robin, do you want, you are proposing 50 and 100 or 50 and 70? Because
50 and
I don't
70.
want us to spend another month and be in the same debate. You know, I feel like that's what I was trying to comment on, is that there's suddenly the goalposts got moved here. You know, we are literally at the precipice of spending over $200,000 on LED lights. 200,000, correct? It's over 200,000, 30 years in the making. And now it feels the goalpost has moved, you know, and so I just want to, we'll spend another month. You're going to come back and say, I vehemently disagree with you at 70 and straight away. So I just want to know what will we cover in the next month.
I do.
We're going to move our point of view.
Robin, can I then?
And we don't need 4 people
One
to
second.
vote. Yeah.
So you're against tabling. So
Robin, maybe you would change your motion to table it till July, and in that time, tree trimming has to happen.
well, you can make an amendment to. Wait, hold on a second.
Why go back?
Hold on a second. I think a motion to table, you can't amend it, right, Mr. Attorney? I think a motion to table is, never mind up here, but,
Well, it depends on it could be withdrawn.
Yeah, look,
Can't be withdrawn if it's been seconded, but.
could I say something? A motion to table, as Ron expressed it, is such that we can wait until the trees are trimmed before untabling the motion. So in other words, if we're looking for the trees to be trimmed where the pilot lights are, I sincerely hope they are trimmed in June.
Okay,
And
so
we can
wait a
untable
minute,
the
so
motion in July.
what I'm, okay, so there's been a motion made and seconded to table. Then why don't you vote on that? Let's just further discussion on the tabling. Then anybody can make a motion regarding this action that needs to be taken. I had a question.
well, as far as like the tree trimming goes, you know, I think.
Hold on, but that's, that,
Can we just hear?
No, because the discussion is about the motion. That is about the motion.
That is about the motion.
No, it is.
Because we're talking
It's
about.
about, the motion is about tabling,
Tabling
to table or not. It's not about. it's not-
condition on tree trimming.
That's not,
Well, that's what I wanted to do.
okay, so
I'm sorry.
So what I'm saying is that since I'm running the meeting. So is there further discussion on the table?
Yes. I'd like to hear from Shannon. On the table. Go ahead. Shannon.
But,
Well, I guess mine isn't really on the tabling,
okay,
right?
I don't know.
I don't know if it is either now.
the issue
I'm
is
lost
whether
on
you-
what is,
whether you
what is policy
table or
or
not.
not.
Then you can make another motion and have these other actions you want to.
I do think that I'm not prepared to make a decision tonight, although I do want to move forward with the light, obviously.
Yeah.
But
The
I
the
would,
discussion on the tabling
Yeah.
motion is whether you're for the tabling motion or not.
I see, okay.
Okay. So is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Right.
All those opposed? Okay, good, okay. So now that, so the item. This item here about. Consider approval of the selection, okay, that has been tabled to the July meeting. Now, would someone like to make a motion on
Tree trimming.
some action that you might?
I'd like to make a motion
Okay,
that in the next 2 weeks, if possible, the trees in question, the trees by the lights in question are trimmed. And then we can go back out there, look at them and be ready for the next meeting to say, that's a great idea. It's not, I know it's not a great motion. A great idea. Not a great.
Don't criticize yourself.
I'm not criticizing myself. I just.
Mr. Town Attorney, can you assist her with a motion that can achieve her intent? That's why we have our attorney here, our brilliant attorney.
Shannon wants.
well, I want to just like tweak one thing Debbie
Okay,
said.
go ahead.
to.
Tell
Okay.
them-
So, and maybe, so. Because not everything's looked at in a vacuum, like this one light is just this one light with one tree. Like it's kind of about the whole street. And like, what does the street look like when the trees are trimmed appropriately with the lighting that we have? So I don't know that we should just go and trim those specific trees. I think we should try to pick a block or wherever and trim all of the lights or the trees. So we can appropriately judge how the street looks walking down it, not just this one lights up.
Okay,
this,
is that the
this lights
intent
up
of your?
this.
Yes, that is
Okay.
definitely the intent.
Okay, so Mr. Town Attorney, can you help them craft a motion to achieve?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. So is the intent then to? Did you have a particular block in mind, particular
Yes.
street or?
I have
I mean,
2 blocks
Dorset?
in mind. I have 2 blocks. By 5707 Surrey Street and Barton, what's your address?
4819 Dorset.
And 4819 Dorset, that area.
And the thought would be, those could be trimmed first to provide initial assessment of what trimming does with respect to the lights. Is that right?
Yes.
Mhm.
I think the motion could be that the town undertake an initial tree trimming of the subject block, 5707 Surrey, 4819 Dorset, in order to assess how the street lights change, how the performance of the street lights change with respect to tree trimming before additional action is considered by the council.
Okay, is
Yes.
that your motion?
It's a very.
Is there a second? Who made the motion?
I
Oh,
did.
I don't know.
I did.
I second.
Okay,
Can we
is
discuss
there
it?
discussion?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have, a clarification. You want the trees trimmed so that they are not obstructing the lights.
Yes,
So should we clarify that in the
but
motion?
we are talking.
Because I don't want it to
Not
be,
just the tree by the light, the light, we want, the test light, but the
Yeah,
block.
but
just to see
obstruct,
how
the
it's-
light obstruct, because I don't want excessive,
Right, we
just
don't-
to not abuse that word, excessive tree trimming.
right, exactly, we want to test.
Oh, just
No,
like what.
just
we
the
do.
obstruction.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so
so do we need to clarify that in the motion? I
Yeah,
would
so.
clarify that in the motion.
Okay, let's let the town attorney.
Who's going to make that Who's going to make that assessment? Do we have a lighting
Yeah,
expert that we
in
want?
consultation with the town arborist,
Town arborist, they're-
would that be
Is the
okay?
town arborist qualified to determine what level of tree?
Better than
trimming is
any of us
necessary
in
for
this
street
room.
lighting?
I don't know, Barton, are you qualified?
Yeah, it would have to be a town staff, it would have to be the town
Council,
arborist,
okay.
yeah.
I mean, I have,
I-
a meter, I did test the lights.
Okay, okay.
In consultation with the town, I would say,
In consultation, yeah.
Yep.
you know, specifically removing obstruction from the tree canopy of the lights in consultation with the town arborist. So that we narrow the scope and we involve someone who can
Okay,
be a proxy for other expertise. You know.
okay, I'm not sure that that needs to be, does that have to be in the motion?
I don't think it needs to be, Mr. Mayor, but it could be helpful. This could be treated as a friendly amendment. So the friendly amendment could be in consultation with the town arborist so that the trimming is not overly excess, or no, so in consultation with the town arborist so that the trimming is the minimum necessary to not obstruct the lights.
Okay, so that could be
Accept.
Councilmember Kumar's
Friendly
friendly
amendment.
amendment.
Okay,
And you're, and then, okay,
Perfect.
okay, so now, is there further discussion on the motion as amended?
Robert, any thoughts?
I've got no comments on this motion.
Okay, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those, okay, thank you. Okay, excellent. You all were excellent. You're really impressive, are impressing our new
Actually, I'm
staff
afraid-
person.
I'm afraid it's gonna scare them away.
No, it's not.
Nothing bad.
He loves all this. We know he loves all this stuff because we thoroughly interviewed him. Okay, our final agenda item is the manager's brief report.
Yeah, in fact, I'm just gonna make it very brief because it's all there for you. The only update I would give is I'm just waiting for one last signature for the stormwater management project. So I think hopefully, knock on wood, but in the next day or two, we'll get that and then be able to move forward on that project. But otherwise, if my report's there, if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to address them.
Okay, Councilor Barr, do you have any questions?
Have you any estimate of when the website will be shared with the communications committee now?
Yeah, we're kind of right there. I think I mentioned there's just a few lingering documents that I want to make sure don't get lost before we move over. So I mean, in fact, I probably could share what we have with them to begin soliciting
I think
feedback.
it'd be a good idea. I not only my wife, but other members of the committee are complaining to me, so.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Okay, do you?
Nobody's
Okay, Councilor
complaining.
Heller, do you have any questions?
Nobody's complaining to me,
Do you have
Robert.
any questions?
No, I don't.
Thank you, Councilor.
Matt, so the pool construction kicks off, the lights, we know where they are. What's the other big, other than the stormwater, other big?
We have the street evaluation.
Where is that standing?
They actually started today, going around town and beginning their evaluations.
And when will we discuss it? We may have put it in.
They said they expect that they will be able to complete an initial report by the end of this month. So I could share it as part of my report in July and then a larger discussion maybe in the July work session.
And I mentioned for the streetlights, a webpage, I recommend that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I will put that out. I think for the pool construction. You may want to draw up a schedule. Where you're expecting the most amount of noise emanating from the pool construction. So that you can give residents a heads up.
Yeah.
I mean, people will still be upset.
Yeah.
But at least you've given.
Yeah.
people a heads up. And then the final thing is that, for the stormwater, will we discuss that at the next work session, if you are so close to the signature?
I don't think so.
It would be good to bring it back into a work session, once you have the signatures.
Okay, to just discuss kind of the scope and bring back
Yes,
Bayland to.
because that was a gate.
Right, yes.
Okay, well, we'll put that on the.
Okay,
agenda.
fair
Great,
enough.
thank you. Okay, thank you. Councilor Rovak, last week.
So I just wanted to find out about if there's any update to like how our town trees are being looked at, because, you know, the one that fell on Dorset on Memorial Day, that tree, I happened to be like right there after, and, the neighbors had told me that they had reported that tree as like a problem tree. And Dr. Feather said that it wasn't. And then it fell, and then it was hollow, and all these ants were like all around and stuff. And the Lee's tree guy said that it was rotted. And so I don't know if we need to look at more sophisticated ways of testing these trees like viability, but it seems like there's a lot of trees that were probably planted around in this town about the same time. And it just makes me nervous because it wasn't even windy that night and the tree just fell.
Well, we asked Dr. Feather to investigate that, and he needs to get back.
Yeah, I can look at, I know that you can do like tree boring samples or something, so I can ask him about that as part of.
Yeah, I would just be curious why we didn't think that it was appropriate to take down.
I mean, but I would say though, just as a word of caution, that unfortunately trees do just happen to fall. So you know, insurance is working through that right now. So I don't want to, you know, admit liability on that.
Well, there
the town
was
is negligent.
there was
There, I don't think that we were negligent, but I do think that, to your point, I think that. Yeah,
No, I don't think we're negligent. I mean, I think that, yeah, I mean, obviously, like, it happens.
Right.
But, you know, from a town liability standpoint, maybe we want to look at other ways to try to, you know, or these other trees that are out there that people are, you know, concerned about.
But okay, so as I said, you know, we've acted. Because that was the initial point of contact, and we have requested that Dr. Feather investigate that.
Okay,
But when those residents reported that tree was examined. So we followed through, so you have good questions. We have to ask Dr. Feather about that, because he's the expert.
yeah,
But it's not, but we are, you know, because we have a town arborist, and because we do, you know, better tree oversight regulation than the county does, or probably any other municipality. And as Matt pointed out, you know, it's an act of God, and the questions that you had about that tree, we have to ask Dr. Feather, who's the expert. I don't know.
I think if there is a resident that has a different point of view than Dr. Feather on the health of the tree, we may want to create a process to hear that out. Because if indeed there is a departure, might be worth a second look, and I think that's what Shannon is getting at. And we could then do a second look, just in case, because things, you know, it's a difficult process. It's possible.
But remember, you have a lot of people in the town that make comments about things that they're not experts on. So you have to be very cautious about that.
No, I've never experienced that.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay, did you have anything else?
no, will we get the report of what happened?
That might be a question for the town attorney. I mean,
Why can't we? Why not?
Because it's a possible liability, is that one?
But it's, but
We can do an executive session. We should have the report.
yeah. It does it.
Whose house did it fall in front?
It was on Dorset,
Oh.
but it was on the other side of Dorset.
We should, Matt, we should be able to see the report.
let's see.
Oh,
what- Okay, let's have, wait a minute, before we discuss this in public, let's have some town attorney.
Yeah, and I'll speak with Matt about this tomorrow, but yeah, generally speaking, of course, any report submitted by a contractor would be open to the council's review.
Okay,
But be very careful about, you know, if a resident, if a citizen says something to you, it's not your role, it's not our role to take sides.
I'm not taking a side.
I know, but.
I was
but-
just there.
And also, we don't want to. You know, we don't know all the facts about what Dr. Feather did, and so we don't need to come up with solutions, but second guessing, until we've heard.
Fair enough, you're right, let's look at the
Yeah.
report, yes, let's look at the report.
We don't, we do want to serve our
You are
constituents,
occasionally
but
right.
we can't overreact to some drama, okay? Because some of the individuals in question have raised issues where they were incorrect. Yes.
Well, we are the political voice in this room, so we do react to what. residents
I
say.
understand,
Yeah.
I understand.
I- I'm going to put a motion, we adjourn on the floor.
Yes.
Second.
I was gonna say that.
Thank you.
You're getting old here.
Because she,
All those in favor?
Aye.
because Shannon.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Okay, good night, folks.
Thank you, Robin.
One across the street.